From Kern Government Television, welcome to this week's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting, originating from the County Administrative Center located at 1115 Truxtun Avenue, Bakersfield, California. Kern County's vision is to create and maintain a customer-centered county government designed to garner the confidence, support, and trust of the people we serve. Today's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting will convene momentarily.
Amazing how these little things come together. Okay, board to reconvene. Good morning, Madam Clerk. Would you please call the roll?
Supervisor Gleason.
Here.
Supervisor Scrivener.
Here.
Supervisor Maggard.
Here.
Supervisor Couch.
Here.
Supervisor Perez.
Here. And good morning. Welcome to the Tuesday, February 24th, 2020 meeting of the Board of Supervisors. We will begin today's meeting with the flag salute led by Dwayne Artis, member of the Kern County Grand Jury. Following the flag salute, please remain standing for a moment of prayer, silence, or meditation, whichever you prefer.
Let's salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne. At this time, I would like to call Mr. Nick Colon, Director of Animal Services, to come out with our pet of the week.
Good morning. Nick Cullen, Director of Kern County Animal Services. This morning's Board of Supervisors pet of the week is Gidget. Gidget is about 1.5 years old terrier mix. She's about 1.5 pounds, or sorry, 4.5 pounds. She came to us just yesterday, actually. She's got to put on a little weight, so she's going to need some TLC if she gets adopted. She's available this Friday for adoption, and she's going to make somebody a really good family pet.
We're color coordinated today. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Colon. Agendas for today's meetings are located on the tables at the back of the chamber for anyone wishing to follow along. We will begin by considering the consent agenda. All items listed with a capital C, capital A above the item are considered to be routine and non-controversial by county staff. Consent items will be considered first and may be approved by one motion. If a member of the audience wishes to comment or ask questions regarding an item or items on the consent agenda, they may do so prior to a vote being taken on the consent agenda. A member of the board may remove any item from the consent agenda, and it will be considered in listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the board concerning the item before action is taken. A member of the public may also comment on any closed session item. Consent matters begin on page 2, and they include items 5 through 7. On page 3, items 8 through 15. On page 4, items 16 through 21. On page 5, item 22. Are there any members of the public that would like to have a matter on consent considered with your information before the vote? Okay, not seeing any. I return to my colleagues. Oh, I'm sorry, I see somebody in the back. Can you please come down? Mr. Fox, I see you. Good morning. Please come down now and provide us your comments. It's been nice to see you engaged again, Mr. Fox.
Well, thank you. Good morning, Madam Chairman, members of the board. I am Dennis Fox. And you have several items from the fire department. And we sent you a letter, and I would like to correct a screw-up I put in the letter.
Okay.
Yeah. First thing, it has to do with the fires that we've been having in California. And they are caused by mismanaged forest. They're managed for fire and not managed for having a balanced, for habitat and for water especially. we've got brush and trees just swallowing the water up. I put in there what happens in the Northwest as an example, outside of the other thing, is that deer browse. Now, so the elk browse. No, the elk graze. So they keep the forest down to where you don't get the mega fires we're getting. And we are really prime. We have 2 forests that we're going to have a problem with. And that is up at Greenhorn and up at Pine Mountain. They're just a problem. And one of the things that I would prefer seeing is the water aspects. After they're looking to doing some burning and some thinning mechanically, but they need to maintain them, and that's why I mentioned deer and elk. That I said they browse, but actually the elk graze. And it keeps the flash fuels down, so you have a fire, it stays on the ground, and it doesn't go up and get into the treetops. And that is where this is where the water comes from. Everybody around here is looking at OP water, getting water from the Delta, which is probably the best soils on the West Coast. In fact, sometimes they used to have fires in the dirt. It was so heavily rich. We need to, I would, rather than try to get water and have a war, who wins that is the lawyers. And we're having lawsuits going on. Rather than take the water from the Delta, get the water and get more water come to the Delta and come down here, rather than fallow the land. When we fallow the land, it doesn't really help. It just moves the water around, and somebody gets bit. Victor Davis Hanson says when he goes to the Stanford for his institute, he hates to see water taken from prime soils and moved over to clay and the desert on the west side. There
thank you,
could
Mr.
be enough to go around is what I'm getting. If they were to focus and try and save the forest, and rather than have fires, rather than have mud, we get water from north. Thank you.
Thank you. It's good to see you, Mr. Fox. Are there any other members of the public that would like to weigh in on any of these matters or on any closed session items? If so, now would be the time to do so. Okay. Are there any board members who would like any items from consent removed for discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We will move now to item number 1 under resolutions and proclamations. This is a proclamation for February 2020 as Safely Surrendered Baby Awareness Month in Kern County. And my colleague, esteemed colleague, Mick Leeson, will make this presentation.
Motion on presentation.
Second.
A motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. 4 ayes, 1 absent. Supervisor Couch.
We got half the room down here. That's good. Come on in. Hi, everybody. Chief. Hi. You're perfect. You're perfect. Good morning, Madam Chair. It's an honor and a privilege to be here today and to offer this proclamation offered from the Board of Supervisors to the County of Kern, proclaiming February 2020 as Safely Surrendered Baby Awareness Month in Kern County. And we have the certificate signed by our Honorable Chairwoman, Leticia Perez. So this is for you. Give you that right now. I got a couple things I want to say. I want to explain, make sure everybody understands what we're talking about here today, because every year I get confused because it's hard to truly imagine this happening, but it does. And it's an event that tugs at your heart, and it makes you think about the pain some people are going through, and then it also makes you think about the generosity of Kern County in so many ways, and then it makes you think about the benefits received by the young baby who is a beneficiary of this wonderful kindness that's being offered by Kern County. So essentially, the Safely Surrendered Baby Law responds to an increasing number of newborn infant deaths statewide due to abandonment in unsafe locations. First enacted in January 2001, the law's intent is to save the lives of newborn infants at risk of abandonment by encouraging parents or persons with lawful custody to safely surrender their infant within 72 hours of birth. Throughout Kern County, a newborn baby can be safely surrendered to the hands of any hospital emergency room or fire station staff. The Safely Surrendered Baby Coalition, under the coordination of the Department of Human Services, works to educate all Kern County residents about this important law. The coalition is made up of a small group of dedicated individuals representing a long list of agencies. They're all most of them behind me here. Nonprofits, hospitals, stakeholders, First Five Kern, Kern Family Healthcare, Kern County Fire Department, Bakersfield City Fire Department, Kern Medical, Adventist Health, Dignity Health, Mercy, and Memorial Hospitals, Delano Regional Medical Hospital, Bakersfield Pregnancy Center, and Kern County Public Health. It's a tremendous outpouring of love and support for persons for whatever reason in need. And I'd like to introduce you to a friend of the 1st District, a young lady by the name of Rebecca, was born on Thanksgiving 2014. She was safely surrendered within the 3-day limit, and then placed in a home the day after Christmas 2014. She lives in Folsom, California, and I'm told she ate all that candy. I don't know. She's a fireball. She's feisty, she's sassy, she's a wonderful young lady with a bright, beautiful future, and we owe that future to people that are behind me, the parents that accept the responsibility, and the parents who surrendered the baby without judgment, with tremendous suffering, but you got our hands go out to and hearts go out to those parents too that had the wisdom and the care and the love to recognize at that point in their life's experiences that the best option for their beautiful child was to surrender that child to a better life. Rebecca had been exposed to methamphetamines and marijuana, and all I know is, and all we know now is that she's a wonderful young lady. Told she suffered through a Super Bowl. She's really a Patriots fan, but she did eat all the candy. And with that, Cindy, I'm going to leave it off to you, and thank you and your team for all you do.
Thank you. Great. Thank you, Supervisor Gleason. And Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Cindy Utes. I'm Chief Deputy Director of the Department of Human Services, and I'm really pleased to introduce those of us in the coalition behind me, and also as Department of Human Services to lead this coalition, and that's a perfect example of why it's important that we do the work that we do for this. As you can see by this large group standing behind me, we're not alone as we lead this coalition. The Safety Surrendered Baby Law allows for women in crisis, as he mentioned, to step into a fire department staff member or a hospital emergency room staff member and leave their baby in the arms of those staff members safely. They can do so without providing their name or any information. There's no repercussions. It's a way to allow a life for their child without any type of repercussion or abandonment. This is the mission of the Safety Coalition behind me, Safely Surrender Baby Coalition, to get this message out and prevent any tragic abandonment of a newborn. Since 2006, when our department began tracking this, 77 newborns have been safely surrendered. in Kern County, and so that's amazing. Just in 2019, there were 5 babies that were saved through this program. And also, the parent does have an opportunity to come back within 14 days after safely surrendering the baby, and we had one mother who did come back and reclaim their child. And I'd like to introduce some of these wonderful people behind me that are part of the coalition and that are supporting this. And we have Chief David Witt of the Kern County Fire Department, Erica Bain, and also Kern County Fire Department, Kern County Public Health, we have Angela Bivens and Lynette Hymas from Kern County Public Health, Daisy Torres, Kern Family Healthcare, Kern Medical, Laura Navarro, Bakersfield Pregnancy Center, Aaron Rogers, and then part of our outreach team, Janice Slagle, who is the committee chair, Terry Martinez, Lee Felix, Stephanie Love, Ali Triolo, Stacy Lloyd, and Vanessa Frando. And these are all amazing people who work on this coalition to make sure we get this important word out. They're coordinated by the Department of Human Services, includes most of our Kern County hospitals, Adventist Health Bakersfield, Adventist Health Tehachapi, Dignity Health Mercy Memorial Hospitals, Kern Medical, Delano Regional, Ridgecrest Regionals, Kern Valley Healthcare. We are also grateful that both the fire departments, Kern County Fire and Bakersfield City Fire Departments, participate and are partners in this endeavor. First Five Kern is our major partner, once again providing funding, and also would like to recognize Kern Family Healthcare, Daisy, who is behind me here, who provides bumper stickers for greater awareness that we put on all of our county cars for awareness about this Safe Surrender program. Also, additional partners, Public Health, Clinica Sierra Vista, and Bakersfield Pregnancy Center. So once again, thank you for this proclamation, and I'd also like to invite everyone to celebrate this with a press conference that we'll be holding on Friday, February 7th at 11 a.m. in front of Adventist Health Bakersfield Hospital on 2615 Chester Avenue. So thank you very much for this opportunity to speak on this important cause. Thank you.
We're gonna get a picture. So you get the middle and everybody.
Thank you all for what you do. Mick, that was a beautiful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was so well done. Well, it is an incredible honor and privilege of mine today to be able to present for Black History Month. So normally the chair would not make these proclamations, but I have asked the clerk, and since she's the boss, she said I can do it. So thank you, Kathy, I appreciate it. And I would ask my colleagues for a motion on the proclamation for February 2020 as Black History Month in Kern County.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, supervisors.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Come on down. Welcome. You look beautiful. All right, come on down. Oh, what a joyous moment. Good morning, colleagues and members of the audience. As the chair of this board, it is my deep and profound honor to make this presentation today as we proclaim the month of February 2020 as Black History Month in Kern County. You may recall we had a very lengthy oil and gas hearing here last couple of weeks ago, and you may recall the governor sent down his legislative secretary, Anthony Williams, who I had some time to get to know. Turns out he is from Bakersfield, and that his grandfather is the first black fire captain in Kern County, and quite possibly the state of California. We're conducting the research as we speak. Pretty remarkable to think about. So many wonderful people that have emerged from Kern County. Black History Month is an annual month of observance in the United States honoring the achievements of African Americans, both past and present, and their central role in the creation of our great nation. It was Harvard graduate Carter G. Woodson who first called for the National Proclamation of Black History Month in 1926, choosing to coincide with the birthdays of both Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. This year's Black History Month is particularly special because it is also the 150th anniversary of the ratification of the 15th Amendment, which finally granted African Americans the right to vote. Truly stunning. On behalf of the Kern County Board of Supervisors, we commend all of the African American community leaders present here today and those who could not be with us. And thank you for all you do to uplift this community. The Board of Supervisors of the County of Kern, State of California, has officially proclaimed February 2020 as Black History Month in Kern County, and this recognition has been entered into the official board minutes. Ms. Waller, if you could please come forward and accept this proclamation from the county to the Martin Luther King MLK Community Initiative, of which you are so passionately driving. You are surrounded by many leaders, who I assume you will introduce and present, but this is a proclamation to you and your glorious community. We thank you and we love you, and celebrate many, many achievements from the past and many to come. So the floor is yours.
Wasn't expecting that. I want to say thank you so much for being so committed and passionate to recognize the excellence in our community, as we have great excellence in our community. And it has been an honor to make sure that we're acknowledged and for you to be so committed and passionate to that. I'm going to also take this opportunity to give the floor to Nick Hill, the president of the Kern County Black Chamber, and I will let him proceed with the introductions. So I will give this opportunity to you if you want. We'll take it from here, but thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nick Hill.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Kern County Black Chamber of Commerce and all the other organizations that's represented here today, and those that are not here with us today, we'd like to say thank you. And on this day, we're proud to accept this proclamation, but please understand that by accepting this proclamation, it's not just an award. This is something that we're going to be dedicated to for a lot of different causes for the African American community, which entails economic stability, educational, even with SB 209 and AB 209, and things like that, that we need to impact and be a champion of for the African American community. And with that being said, I also would like to have Ms. Dee Slade from the African American Network of Kern County to say a few words as well.
Honorable Chair Perez, thank you. To the other Honorable Maggard, Honorable Scrivener, Honorable Couch, Honorable Gleason, thank you so much for this acknowledgement of the gifts that the African Americans have contributed throughout the United States, the world, and let me give you just a short snippet of what they've contributed here. 1880, the very first African American woman came to Kern County. Her name was Miss Fanny Price, but you may know of a street off of Cottonwood Road named Reese. She married Thomas Reese, who happened to have been the very first man of color to chair a party, the Democrat Party. But it wasn't just politics. Miss Reese purchased property across from the Bakersfield High School on a street called Forest. She owned that property and continued to develop more property. She was instrumental in the second African American church, which you know of, Mount Zion, which is located on the corner of California and P Street, I believe. And she was instrumental in helping to establish the property there. But she was a businesswoman. So let me take you to the oldest African American church in this community. That is Kern AME, diagonally across from Mount Zion Baptist Church. But let me take you a step further. In 1953, the very first councilman of color was elected. He happened to have been the pastor of Kern AME Church. His name was, no, you don't know? Oh, you want to know, okay. I'm leaving with each of the supervisors a pamphlet, and in the pamphlet, it will tell you who that person was. And that person was Reverend Henry Collins. So I will see that all of you in your office, I will leave a copy of this historical memento for you to read from 1880 down to 2017, when Gloria Cannon became the first African-American woman to be a Kern County Superior Court judge, but not the first. There was a male that was selected. So thank you so much for this opportunity to share. I'm not going to tell you all the little tidbits, but I implore upon you to contact the Kern County African American Network at any time for us to do presentations. I hope you will join Cal State for their breakfast this coming Friday, if you can, to celebrate Black History, and also on February at Bakersfield College. All throughout our community, there will be many, many celebrations. So thank you for this distinguished honor. Thank you very much.
We don't get this too often, so we're going to take a little more time. And I want to invite, is there anyone else who would like to have an opportunity to address our Honorable City Council? Sorry, Supervisor. I've been in a lot of these meetings the last few.
My name is Michelle Shaw, Pathways of Destiny. First of all, Madam Chairwoman, thank you so much. Chairman Maggard, Scrivener, did I get it right? Okay, I'll work on it, promise. And Couch and Gleason, thank you all so much for this beautiful proclamation. I'm so grateful to be here celebrating this wonderful month, but it's something that we celebrate every day of the year. Being born and raised from Bakersfield, I'm so thankful that we have the opportunity to see this proclamation to come together. May we come together and unify. We're about community. That's what we're here for. And we're grateful for this proclamation. One step forward. We're going to continue to be here. We're going to continue to be active. But we thank you for taking this step. Let's work together. Let's build community. And let's make it strong. Bakersfield strong. Thank you so much.
Here. Let's get a picture. Oh, is somebody else? Oh, well, please.
Madam Perez, all the dignitaries here, I'm honored to be a part of this great historic day, and hopefully it will be one on March 3rd, because I will be running for mayor, and I hope that we will elect something great. Pastor Tatum. I just want to remind you guys that a lot of people in our nation, and not just Bakersfield, they look at our future based on our past. And if our past looks murky, we have to clear it up. And I think this day is the beginning of clearing up the past and making the waters clear. And we honor you guys and respect you for that by recognizing us as relevant. We thank you.
So I want to say thank you. And the MLK Community Initiative is a collaborative effort to continue to show excellence, and we appreciate this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Okay, let's get a picture. Thank you. Thank you very much, colleagues. Come on over. What's it? Come this way. Squeeze in.
give you, we'll slide to the side.
Are you in?
Yeah.
Thank you. Can I get, thank you guys very much.
Oh,
Another photo.
Thank you. Okay, moving along to item 2A is a proclamation for February 3rd through the 7th, 2020, as Grand Jury Public Awareness Week in Kern County. And Supervisor Couch, I understand, will make this presentation.
Thank you. Motion on the proclamation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. Thank you, Supervisor.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Bring the whole grand jury today? Let's hear it. Madam Chair, members of the board, it's my honor today to present this proclamation. I still remember the first time I got a phone call, and I don't recall who it was that came into my office and said, "The grand jury is on the phone and would like to talk to you." And I thought, ooh, wonder what I did wrong. But that's the function that they fulfill. And you know, elected officials, if they are earnest about their job, always respond to their constituents. I don't know if a lot of people don't know this, but we are required by law to actually, elected county officials, to respond to the grand jury in a fairly timely manner, too. I think it's about 60 days or so. Sometimes we can say that we disagree. We ought not do that too often, I believe. But they represent, or they perform a very specific function, and that is really government watchdog, taxpayer watchdog, and they do an extremely good job of it, and they do it for practically nothing. And when it comes to, if you look up public servant in the dictionary, I think you'll see some of these people. It's my honor to present this, so I'll read the proclamation. I'll present it to Jerry Troxel. Jerry, you're the foreperson this year?
Yes, I am.
Okay. The Board of Supervisors of the County of Kern, State of California, has officially proclaimed February 3rd through the 7th, 2020 as Grand Jury Public Awareness Week in Kern County, and this recognition has been entered in our official board minutes signed by our Honorable Chair, Leticia Perez. It's dated today, February 4th, 2020, and I'll hand this off to present this to Jerry Troxel, the foreperson this year, and allow him to say a few words. Jerry, thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Jerry Troxel, and I'm the appointed foreman for the 2019-2020 Kern County Grand Jury. Chair Perez and members of the Board of Supervisors, the grand jury members would like to thank you for the recognition of Grand Jury Awareness Week and the proclamation bestowed upon the organization. The first Kern County Grand Jury was appointed by the Kern County Board of Supervisors in 1866. So we've been around for a long time, and there's probably been a lot of people saying, oh, the grand jury's here. So it's kind of one of those things. Each year, 19 volunteer members are impaneled from the community to serve as the Kern County Grand Jury. The grand jury is a diverse group with a wide range of backgrounds and interests. To be eligible to be a grand juror, you must be a citizen of the United States, at least 18 years of age, and been a resident of Kern County for the past 12 months. A juror can serve up to 2 years before being dismissed. And within this group here, there are 9 of us that are on our second year with the grand jury. And we also have 4 members that have served multiple terms. So this is a pretty experienced grand juror. Grand jurors make a commitment to serve a minimum of 20 hours a week, working 5 hours per day, 4 days a week, and the juries receive a daily stipend of $30 per day, and we get mileage. So never have so few done so much for so little. All grand jurors are sworn to secrecy and complete confidentiality as it pertains to complaints, witnesses, or the content of investigations. This ensures the protection and privacy of anyone coming before the jury. No confidential information leaves the grand jury chambers. The grand jury's mission is to be the watchdog for the public. The grand jury objectively investigates, audits, or examines all aspects of Kern County government, special districts, and cities to ensure that these bodies are effectively governed and that public monies are being handled prudently and in the best interest of the public. Any citizen, including city, county officials, and employees, may submit a signed complaint to the grand jury. All citizens' complaints are received and reviewed by the jury. All complaints are acknowledged and remain confidential. Complainants are sent letters to communicate the actions taken by the grand jury. The grand jury also hears criminal indictments brought by the district attorney's office for criminal offenses. This grand jury is on our third indictment on criminal indictments this year, so we are doing a part that we've never done actively before. At the end of the year, in June, the grand jury issues a final report to the presiding judge. This report consolidates the investigation reports prepared and pre-issued throughout the year by the committee. We thank you for the service and the opportunity to work. Thank you. Thank you.
By the way, Madam Chair, I want to state for the record that I hadn't done anything wrong. I just wanted information in that meeting. Okay.
We'll wait for the report, Supervisor. I'm going to take an item out of order. Number 4, under board member announcements and reports. I'm going to ask Patty Pure, who I haven't seen in some time, but very nice to see you, old friend. I understand now you are the Kern Groundwater Authority Planning Manager. How lucky they are.
I don't know, ask them. They might not think so.
Well, I understand you have a presentation on what is, aside from our oil and gas challenges, the most profound issue that we're facing, our water realities. And I think it would be so beneficial to the public and to this body for you to share with us some of your wisdom and where you see things are and what we should be thinking about as a county. And we appreciate your expertise and your long-standing service in Kern County. So welcome.
Thank you.
And Happy New Year to you.
You too. Thank you. Thank you very much, Chairwoman Perez, for this opportunity, and thank you all of the other Board of Supervisors. It's good to see you all in 2020. I have brought 2 gentlemen with me that I will introduce as we move forward, but I'll make this really kind of very simple and to the point. I think that'll be the best way to do it. In 2014, Sacramento passed a legislative law called the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, and when it became effective on January 1st of 2015, it classified the Kern Basin as critically overdrafted. And with that classification, we are required to form what they call the groundwater sustainability agencies. And in this basin, we have 5 of those agencies who submitted 5 groundwater sustainability plans. The Kern Groundwater Authority, who I work for, is the largest groundwater sustainability agency in the state, because we also cover the biggest basin in the state. So we have that kind of ranking to deal with. But we were very, very successful that the plan was due January 31st, 2020, to cover the entire Kern Basin, which is this basin on the floor, not on the east side, but this particular side. And we were able to accomplish that and submit the plan, which covers the basin. That puts the State Water Board at bay for a while. So the Department of Water Resources has the next 2 years under statute to review our groundwater sustainability plan for this basin. And so what we'd like to do is kind of give you an overview of that plan and what we found out as we put that plan together in, pertaining to this basin. Chairwoman Perez's point, water is very important to this basin, not just for agricultural, but for day-to-day life. And so this is a law that doesn't impact just ag, it impacts all of us. So it is a law that's going to impact people's lives, people's jobs, the way we look at new development. It's going to impact everything that we do today. It is not business as usual. And so what we'd like to do is go over a couple of the most important points. And what I'd like to do is start with Jason with Semi-Tropic. We're going to talk about our water, where we get our water in this basin, how much we use, what we buy, so that this board gives an idea of how advanced we have been in this basin. We've been part of the State Water Project and the Federal Water Project from the very beginning in this basin. And so there is a lot of money that has been spent, infrastructure that's been built, and so Jason's going to go over that real quick.
Good morning, Madam Perez and the board. My name is Jason Gianquinto. I'm the general manager of the Semi-Tropic Water Storage District, which is a member of the Kern Groundwater Authority. So under SGMA, before we can understand where we're going, we need to understand where we have been and kind of understand some history. So the first thing I wanted to cover is basically where does our water in Kern County come from? So we are largely dependent upon groundwater. We always have been. And the Kern River. That's the majority of our supply comes from groundwater in the Kern River. But our forefathers acknowledged that we could not be sustainable with groundwater in the Kern River alone. And so we entered into the State Water Project and the Federal Water Project to kind of alleviate our reliance upon the groundwater basin. So about a third of our water comes from groundwater, 20% from the Kern River, and a little over 35% comes from the Central Valley Project and the State Water Project. Now, the other issue we have, of course, given California has a very lumpy water supply. We have wet years and dry years. We recognized early on in Kern County that we needed to come up with means to be able to balance that supply or manage it. And so we've invested significantly since the mid-'80s in groundwater banking to be able to take advantage of wet years, store that water away so we can pull upon it in dry years to get through. And so up until about 2000, that system worked very well. In 2000, we started seeing significant reductions of our import supply from the Bay Delta. This is primarily a state water project. But prior to 2000, our state water contract, which was a 1 million acre-foot contract through the Kern County Water Agency in the state of California, was 90% reliable. And there was a step change in 2000. And so our state water went from 90% reliability to 58% reliability. And so now, if we do not have surface water supplies available, given the economic vitality of the county, from an agricultural standpoint, our landowners have to go back to the groundwater basin. Therefore, we are in critical overdraft because of the lack of exports under our agreements with the state and the federal government. So with that, that's a little bit of history. The next slide will be Eric Everett, who's the general manager of Rosedale Rio Bravo. He'll go through how we're addressing this overdraft situation and kind of next steps. Eric?
Good morning. So the map that you see shows kind of the organizational structure within Kern County with the different colors representing different management areas, some of which are within the Kern Groundwater Authority and others within the other GSAs within the basin. But they represent kind of the areas that stepped forward to accept responsibility for developing this water management plan and compliance with SGMA. So Jason touched on the water supply situation, and I want to kind of emphasize a couple of points here. And first is that we have been deemed critically overdrafted by DWR, which basically in its simplest form means that we're using more water than we have available. But I want to make sure that the board understands that we're not the architect of that problem. A lot of people say, well, you've planted wall-to-wall trees and you've increased your demand and you've done all these things, and so therefore, cause and effect. And that's really not the case. The situation that we find ourselves in is significant reductions in the imported supplies that we actually contracted for to address the overdraft situation back in the 50s and 60s. And as the state, through its infinite wisdom and the challenges associated with moving water through the Delta and the federal system, have had to curtail those supplies. And the consequence of that is we've invested in significant infrastructure and crops, and instead of allowing those economic footprints to dwindle or diminish, we went to the groundwater basin, a reasonable outcome given the investments. And so as a result of that, our dependence or reliance on the groundwater basin has caused us to become what we call critically overdrafted. There's some numbers on the screen. I'm just going to point out one of them, and that's 324,000 acre feet. And that's the best estimate that we have, kind of using the most recent numbers that we have available, looking at county or basin-wide supply and demand. And that's the number that we've identified, at least on a preliminary basis, as far as overdraft. The reason that number is very important is it almost matches exactly with the amount of water that we've lost from the state and federal projects. The challenge for most of the irrigated agriculture is for the last decade or so, not only have we not had that water, we've had to pump it and or replace it and go buy additional water supplies. And so we're paying our state and federal contracts, and then we have to actually go out and spend additional money to offset that difference, which has really been a significant challenge for the growers and landowners within this region. So this is just another detail of some of the specifics that we've worked on in the planning documents. So there's a document that's called the Groundwater Sustainability Plan. In each of those management areas that I showed on the prior map has developed one, and that management plan is really, I want you to think of it as a fiscal budget. It's how are we going to balance our budget over the next 20 years. And for the most part, we have two options. We have supply and demand. And we can adjust what I call the two knobs. We can either increase supplies or we can reduce demand. And my job and Jason's job and others like us, our boards have told us that our employment opportunity is largely dependent on our ability to increase supply because nobody really wants to reduce demand because there's economic consequences, which is a good segue to the next slide. This was an independent analysis that was done looking at just Kern County. It was actually done, I believe, in 2014. It may have been done prior to SGMA. We used it as a talking point when we went up and met with legislators in Sacramento to make sure that they understood that when they passed the law, that there were consequences associated with that. And I think for this board to understand that those consequences aren't just the landowners in the field, but they trickle down to jobs, opportunity, tax base, all of those things. And we're looking at a very significant impact in Kern County agriculture. One that, again, our job is to try and mitigate to the extent that we can with water supplies. But frankly, that represents another challenge, and that is that there is no water in the Tulare Lake Basin. We are very dependent on imported water supplies, and that's kind of this epiphany that I think recently came up, where when you look at the local water supply situation, we can increase our recharge and we can do all of these things, but that's just taking water from one user and moving it to another. There is no new water in the Tulare Lake Basin, and so what that means is for us to be successful and to mitigate the numbers that you see on the screen requires a lift at the state level and a commitment to move water from Northern California to Southern California. And I know that may be somewhat difficult in the political climate, but absent that, we are boiling the frog. It's a 20-year boil, but the frog will be dead at the end. And I think the call to action here is to recognize that absent a commitment to bring water into this area, imported water, we're looking at numbers very significant. So one of these days, I'm actually going to have good news to report.
As both Eric and Jason indicated, we have a deficit in this basin. There is, it is too ironic that it is the same amount of water that we're not receiving our water deliveries from the Delta. We were hoping that wasn't going to be the case when we started doing our required data requirements for our plan, but we did come out where it's almost identical. The amount of water that we're in deficit is the amount of water that we're not receiving. Bear in mind that those water payments are still paid. So it is like you and I going to the grocery store, going to the cashier, paying for the groceries, but then told you can't take it with you. That is what is happening right now. Kern County is also unique in that we also have the most food processing facilities in the state. This law is throughout the entire state. So not only is Kern County looking at having to reduce its demand, so is everywhere else in the state, which means the food products that come here to be processed from Southern California and into the valley, they're going to have the same situation occurring, which means a processing facility that might have 3 shifts today may only be needed to have 1 shift. So it is an unfortunate situation that we're in with the law. We have 20 years to provide the proof that we're sustainable. It is a 20-year adaptive management program. However, every year we have to submit annual reporting, and every 5 years we have to literally redo the plan all over. And just to give you a visual, if you were to stack just the Kern County, the Kern Groundwater Authority plan, it would be taller than me. That's how much scientific data was put together in order to put that plan together. So it did take us 2 years to do it. So I wish we could bring you good news, but what we wanted to do was to give you a heads up. We just wanted you to know what we are going to be looking to and looking for in the next couple of years.
Patty, if people call our office and have questions, should we direct them to you?
Please.
Yeah, because we're not really the experts in
Right.
this world.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, please
great.
do that.
So we will direct them to you. Thank you for your contact information. Thank you for all the useful, helpful information.
Thanks.
Really appreciate it. It appears as though Supervisor Gleason has a question.
Just a couple quick ones. The good news, Patty, is that you're on it, and Eric, and I know all you people have been all over this thing, so I have, it's not despair for me. I have confidence in our success and how we're going to do this. We have 2 critically overdrafted basins, one on the East Coast, on the east side, one on the west side. The east side is the one I'm working on, and it's infinitely smaller, and the numbers, it's a much more finite problem. I can only imagine how challenging the world you live in. So I got a couple questions. You said you have 5 GSAs. Are you submitting 5 GSPs, or is it 1 GSP and everybody's under the same thing?
It was 5 GSPs. You had Ulysses, Buena Vista, Kern River, the Buena Vista, and
Are all the GSPs interlocked?
they are well coordinated.
Is that one of the conditions for success?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, when I first came on to this position back in 2018, that was one of the things we weren't doing very well. We are very well coordinated. We coordinated all of the model. Our monitoring network is all coordinated. Everything, actually, the state is kind of excited about how coordinated this basin ended up being. We are the only basin that used the required water model that the Department of Water Resources wanted everybody to use. We were the only basin that took it on. We did it as a basin. So yes, it's very well. We actually have a coordination agreement. It was executed by all the GSAs that submitted the GSPs.
Thanks. Is the only undesirable result of the 6 undesirable results of Sigma is a declining water table? Is that the only one that's a condition for your being labeled a critical overdrafted basin?
That's the one that we are most concerned about. We do address water quality in this basin as well. So we do address both water quality and the water levels.
So those are the 2 that you're worried about?
Those are the most important 2, absolutely.
It's a dumb question, but I want to ask it to give you a chance. It's like a softball. 2000. The year 2000, all of a sudden, things changed. groundwater allocations were dramatically reduced. Can you talk just a couple minutes about that, to any level you want to?
It's called regulation in CEQA.
Could you go about that, please? Just let the
That's-
public know.
That's when the Sacramento decided the Endangered Species Act, and we had the Delta smelt, and that's when all of the fight started, was over the Delta smelt and the salmon, the fisheries. So it was based on the Endangered Species Act, and the regulations and regulatory environment changed in Sacramento.
So as a result of these regulations passed by people up in Sacramento, you continue to pay your full allocation dollars for the water that you were contracted to pay and they were contracted to deliver. However, they're not delivering those water supplies to a degree of 42% reduction in water supplies. And that causes you to draw more water out of the ground, which in effect causes this now a double whammy on our farmers and our people in this valley.
Absolutely.
And so the natural question is, how can we fix that, right, those regulatory issues, or is there a fix, or is it just too far gone?
Nothing is never too far gone. We just kind of have to step back and have calmer heads prevail. The reality needs to happen that there is an opportunity. We just have to look at it in terms of there's water available. Let's change the mindset and figure out, okay, we have water available, how do we move it?
Aren't they flushing hundreds of thousands of acre-feet of water out into the ocean every year from Northern California?
Yes, they are. We just have to change that mindset. We've got to get people to start realizing it is people's livelihoods. It is people's way of life. It is jobs. It's the security of our whole United States. The valley is the breadbasket of the whole United States. This is where we get our food.
So I think this conversation can go on for hours, Patty.
Absolutely.
I mean, I really do, and I don't want to bog everybody down, forgive the pun. But I do want to have continued understanding. I think the public needs to know. I think this is going to have significant impact for Kern County, our businesses, our economies, our quality of life, our farmers, our employment numbers. Everything's going to be impacted. And we need to be as fully up to speed as we possibly can. So thank you for all the work you people do, and whatever we can do to help, we want to help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Please stay. Supervisor Couch.
Well, I just want to ask, Supervisor Gleason touched on it. He could probably go on for a long time discussing this, because I could do the same. I want to ask you if you guys would pop upstairs and get on my calendar sometime. And I'm recognizing the three of you, your schedules and mine is going to be difficult, but could we do that so we could just sit down and talk it more at length? All right, thank you.
Absolutely.
Good. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along, public presentations. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons to address the board on any matter not on today's actual agenda, but under the jurisdiction of the Kern County Board of Supervisors. So if you would please come down, you may speak for 2 minutes. Please state your name for the record and share your thoughts and heart with this board. We love to hear from you. So now is the time. Please come down. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, board members. My name is Nadine Escalante. I just wanted to thank the board and thank Kern County Sheriff's Department for coming to our children's rescue on January 8th at East High when there was a lockdown because a student brought what appeared to be a weapon. It's debatable still. It looks like a gun on campus. Me and my 2 children were present that day. That lockdown was extremely fearful for me and my children. And I kept telling my daughters, there are 6 sheriffs outside this door. There is no way anybody's going to get past those sheriffs. My son drove by. There was 22 officers on East High's campus. Thank you for Kern County Sheriff's Department. On January 21st, as you all are aware, a child's life was taken across the street from Foothill High School. Again, the Sheriff's Department responded and protected our children. And so I want to give credit where credit is due, and I want to thank Kern County Sheriff's Department for protecting our county, protecting its constituents, its community. but most importantly, it's children. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you, Nadine. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Chairwoman Perez, members of the board. My name is Jairo Hernandez. I am a resident of District 5 and a member of the United Domestic Workers of America Union. I was here a few weeks ago and focused my remarks on the shortage of home care providers, which is currently threatening our state and our country. This problem is an absolute train wreck waiting to happen. According to California's Employment Development Department, our state will need 713,000 home caregivers in 2024, up from 525,000 in 2014. This is a 36% growth rate in 10 years. Kern County needs to turn this around. Otherwise, things are only going to get worse. One of the reasons it will get worse is stagnant wages in the industry and lack of health insurance. There is no wonder many home care workers enter the industry and use it as a stepping stone toward a better job. For the second time in 2 years, Kern County budget 2019-2020 prioritized public safety functions, which included the sheriff and fire departments. I want to thank you for the job well done. Today, I want to point out to you that home caregiving is a matter of public safety. Recipients in the IHSS system need to find the caregiver they need promptly in order to feel safe and be safe. They are disabled or they are very sick. Our union is asking you for health insurance and a long time awaited fair and modest increase in our wages. We, your army of home care providers with the green shirts, we cannot be unhealthy and caregivers at the same time.
Mr. Hernandez, I'm going to ask you to wrap it up, sir.
Yes, I am
Thank
doing
you.
that. It will be very wise if you place our union request among your top priorities. You will be helping all disabled persons, low-income home care workers, and the Kern County economy. God bless you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez.
Can I ask a question?
Please, Supervisor Kern.
I'd ask our CAO, our bargaining groups advised when we actually do discuss their issue in closed session? The reason I'm asking is and I could be totally wrong, I'm getting the impression that they believe we're not even discussing it, the speakers, and I want them to realize that we are, and we have been.
We are discussing it with you.
But let's say when we discuss them, are they advised that we actually discussed it in closed session? Is there that type of communication so they know there are ongoing discussions and ideas being contemplated, or do they just hear nothing from us? And I'm not being disparaging. I'm just curious what they hear.
Chairwoman Perez, Supervisor Couch, I'm going to ask Devin Brown, our Chief Human Resources Officer, who's our lead negotiator, to come up and answer the question.
Thank you. And I don't mean to hijack what your time. I just want to know that. Thank you.
Good morning, Supervisor Couch, through the chair, Devin Brown, the Chief Human Resources Officer and Chief Negotiator for the county. Many times we meet with our bargaining groups very frequently, weekly, and of course we meet with your board during closed session to discuss proposals and counter proposals. This particular bargaining group has been an impasse since very early in 2019. We actually have a mediation scheduled with them this Thursday. So we haven't been in frequent communication with the bargaining group leaders, so we haven't been able to talk about that. But as Mr. Alsop said, we are planning on discussing this group with you today.
Thank you. I was just looking at the agenda because I thought they were on there. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Please state your name for the record. Good
My
morning.
name's Teresa Swick, Teresa Swick. Good morning.
Good morning.
Madam Chair and Chairperson. The reason I'm here is that I take care of my daughter. She's 43. She has cerebral palsy, and she's bedridden. She feeds out of a feeding tube, and she needs constant care. And I bathe her and everything right there in that bed, and hair washing, every bit. So I would like to have you guys to please give us our raise. You know, because it does take a lot of time with her to take care of her. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Swift. Who's next? Please come down.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Rudy M. Colmanero. I am a home care provider. I am 59 years old. The recipient is Alice Colmanero. Matters of concern, affordable housing for recipients and providers without being penalized for having to work a second job to make ends meet. Matter number 2, better medical benefits for payee providers and recipients. Matter number 3, need of competitive wages for payee providers. Matter number 4, providers need a gym to go to stay fit for the recipients. Matter number 5, sick leave hours need to roll over if not used and cashed out like a normal job. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good morning,
Hi, Lori.
Board. My name is Lori Pesante, Pesante. Today I speak on behalf of the Dolores Huerta Foundation to speak especially on the topic of how the negotiations with the UDW and SEIU have everything to do with public safety. These folks behind me right now and the ones who couldn't be here because they're working, they're just as important as our sheriffs. They stand between peace and civility and having a roof over your head and not. And especially given recent events that Ms. Escalante shared with you, as well as in Delano and in Lamont, where you had 3 youths shot. My son actually attends the school right on the other side of Foothill, so this was especially dear to my heart. He went on lockdown and I had to go down and make sure everything was okay. So I really want to reiterate to you guys that if we're looking at sewing back together the fabric of our community and our safety, these folks, they have the needle and thread. So let's treat them right. They're just as important as our sheriffs. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Marta Trujillo, and I spoke last week as well. And I'm a caregiver as well, like I told you guys before, for 2 persons. And I'm going to talk about Mr. Branham, the one that I take care of. He's 77 years old, like I told you guys before. And he doesn't, if he gets sick and he go to the hospital because his issue that he have a stroke before, and after he go to the hospital, for some reason he has to go to the rehab center. He doesn't like to be there. Why? Because as soon as he get there, they put him on diapers. He won't be able to walk only when he goes to therapy. When he goes to therapy, he has to go back to bed. The food that he got there is limited, it's portions. His liquids has to be thick liquids, so it's a special diet. And he doesn't like that, so that's why he likes to be on his own home. That's why he likes persons like me, like take care of him. So it's very important for him to have caregivers. And I'm so glad that I'm a caregiver because I have job, thanks to him. So please, the only thing that we just been asking, just better rates, like better salary. And we just want to have a better quality of life, because now it's really hard to survive with a minimum wage. It is hard, even in Kern County. We don't have enough money to take care of our own families, because by the end of the day, we are absent parents. Why? Because mom has to go and work extra time. Dad has to go work. So who's taking care of kids? Babysitter. So babysitter cannot have mom's plates. So that's the only thing. And we don't have any retirement plan. So who's gonna take care of us when we get old? Because we all gonna get old.
Yes, right. Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Thank you so much. Just keep that in mind, please.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Supervisors. My name is Pedro Ramirez. I'm here on behalf of the Kern Inyo Mono Central Labor Council, and I'm here to speak for the UDW workers and SEIU 521. With UDW, as you've heard many of them speak, sharing their stories, who they care for and why they do it, and the passion they have in their work. At the core of this is treating people with respect and dignity, respecting work, respecting the energy and the passion they put to making sure that they care for their patients, for their family members, and for the community. And so as you're making these choices as to how to prioritize your funding, keep in mind how you move this county forward. You know, keep in mind that by putting your money, by putting your resources to uplifting people, you will uplift all of us. You uplift this community. So I urge you to consider compromising and working on a reasonable wage increase to their salaries and their benefits. And in respects with 521, I ask the same thing for those workers. Again, this is about treating people with respect and dignity and honoring what work is and what work is in Kern County. Thank you.
Good morning, Supervisors. My name is J.B. Afomanin, and I serve as a statewide coordinator for UDWA. And what my main job
Your
is...
name, sir?
I said J.B. Afomanin.
Can you spell that?
Oh, J.B. J period B period. First name Afomanin, AFOH-MANIN.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
It's different.
Yeah, absolutely. From West Africa originally. But anyhow, I serve as a statewide coordinator for UDWA. My main job in my portfolio is to help negotiate contracts with public authorities such as yourself around the state of California. We are located in 21 of the 58 counties, as you guys probably know. I just came up here, I wasn't planning to speak, but Supervisor Couch asked a question about if the county had been talking to us about what you guys have been doing in closed session. We were not aware of what you've been doing in closed session. So I really appreciate you asking that question. I am on the bargaining team. I will be there Thursday at 9:30 for the bargaining session with the county. We look forward to negotiating a resolution with you. Thank you for that question.
Good morning.
Good morning. Natalie, how's it going, everybody? Thank you very much for all of your super awesome work and those of you who attend. It begins with morals, ethics, integrity, standards, and accountability. If we do not have good and loyal local politicians, our community will continue to be screwed and our constituents will as well. There is no such thing as a Delta smelt. It was created. Water is imperative to not only just beer, it's also imperative to ag, oil, the economy, and our body. What really is Measure M? About our bike paths. Recently, a local jogger who was on the bike path was attacked. They need to be better, well-maintained. There are many variables to consider moving forward with the high-speed rail, as it should, and any transportation responsibilities in our county, i.e., first and foremost, the budget, safety, location, jobs, scheduling, transferabilities amongst multiple transportation agencies, i.e. fees, bus schedules, bikes, borders, rail, roads, wind, etc. What is really up with the high-speed rail? In our county, we have not only a budgetary crisis, we also have a water, ag, and oil crisis, as there is no reason to why veterans, disabled, elderly, and women should be on the streets. It is not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. Lastly, go Condors.
Natalie Noel, Miss Noel. Thank you, Miss Noel. I like the Condors, too.
Good morning, Madam Chair,
Good morning.
Board Supervisors, members, everyone here. I'm not going to beat up us, keep repeating the same thing. I
Give
wanna
me your name, ma'am.
My name is Christine Moore.
Thank you,
CHRISTINEMOORE. I'm sorry about that. I just want to thank you guys for being here listening to us, because I feel like 2020 is going to be a better year for us, and I thank you for it.
I do, too. Any other members of the public that would like to weigh in on a matter not on today's agenda? If not, I'm going to close the public portion of this hearing. Oh, I do see somebody. Please come forward, state your name for the record, and give us your thoughts, sir.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, Supervisors. My name is Dustin Alkire. I'm the president of KCDOA, the Kern County Detention Officer Association. I represent the detention deputies that work for the Kern County Sheriff's Office. Today, I'm here to discuss why I feel a 1-cent sales tax with a citizen oversight committee is needed and would be successful in Kern County. For the last 10 years, our county has been faced with financial cutbacks. In 2016, we saw a drop in oil revenue that cut our departments even further. Those cutbacks affected our people on the front lines, the citizens, taxpayers, and small businesses. Convicted criminals are serving only a fraction of their sentence. Some serve less than 30 days on a year due to a lack of detention deputies. Crime is at an all-time high. Deputies make arrests only to see the suspect released hours later on a promise to appear. A lack of resources is forcing our community to become victims. We are waiting longer for help when emergency happens. We have entered into a public safety crisis. Jails sit empty, and our first responders are exiting in droves. As leaders, we must look at these issues and figure out a way to move in the same direction to find a solution. Recently, we learned that Sacramento would be limiting or possibly eliminating our oil industry. We must look at where this leaves us now and in the future. Removing this will leave us devastated. We will see lower property values, more crime, more victims, more theft, and less business. We look at the city of Bakersfield and its successful voter-approved 1-cent sales tax. Adding just a penny to the sales tax, but keeping 100% of that revenue in the city and forming a citizens oversight committee to oversee those funds, we have seen Bakersfield incentivizing their public safety departments, take strides to combat homelessness, and adding the first of 25 officers to 100. Adding the first of 25 to 100 new officers. I am respectfully asking that you form an exploratory coalition of partners, stakeholders, and public safety departments to take a deep dive at what this looks like and place on your March agenda an action to bring our voters a rainy day structured equally to the city's 1-cent sales tax with a citizen oversight committee. Thank you for your time today, Supervisors.
Dustin, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate what you do and appreciate your time here and you looking at this matter as a holistic issue that's facing the entire county. That takes a lot of maturity, and I really appreciate that.
Well, we're here to help because if we lose oil, this county's going to take a hard hit. So
We're taking a hard hit now.
we are right now, but we're here to help.
I appreciate the partnership.
Appreciate it.
Thank you,
You guys
sir.
have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you. May I ask Ryan or County Council, this is an issue that I do believe we should talk about. I don't know if we should agendize it to have on an agenda here soon or wait, just send a referral at this time. What would you recommend? So that we are consistent with the law and we are moving forward in a timely fashion.
We are open to accept any referrals your board makes, Madam Chairwoman.
Well, If it's okay with my colleagues, I would like to make a referral. I have wanted to have this discussion publicly, and I think the timing is good, and the potential partnership with our law enforcement brothers and sisters is very exciting to me. So if I could just send that referral or ask my colleagues to chime in if they choose, or procedurally, I'm not sure how my colleagues would like to proceed with at least having the conversation publicly, if that's okay, without any commitments as to what we would do. I see nodding from Supervisor Scrivener.
Madam Chair, if you'd like me to make that referral for you, I think having a discussion is totally within the appropriate parameters for this board, and so I'll make that referral on your behalf.
I appreciate that, Supervisor Scrivener. Is there a second to have the discussion?
Yep.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Gleason. Can you please I'm sorry, to my other colleagues, would you like to chime in or say anything? Okay, please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
I would, if I may, ask a question of County Council. I wasn't sure if the March ballot was what was referenced or not. I heard something about March, but as far as timeline is concerned, have we already passed the point to put something on? I mean, I'm sure we have, and so this would be a discussion for November.
That's my
Madam Council.
assumption.
Yes. That's correct. The March ballot is printed, and all deadlines have passed for that. I believe there's still some opportunity to get something on the November ballot. Those deadlines
Outstanding.
haven't passed.
Outstanding. We have a motion and a second. Can you cast your votes? Did we do that, Kathy?
We did. The vote
We
was
did.
all ayes. Motion passed.
Fantastic. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, gentlemen. We will be moving forward publicly and having this conversation, so we look forward to your continued engagement, and I so appreciate your leadership, Dustin. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move to public, we're done with public presentations. We are going to return to board member announcements or reports. I understand Supervisor McGleason has an announcement.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. In the past year, we've done a phenomenal job of initiating a county-wide branding program. And we've got all these things going. For example, I'm looking at the sign right there. You see all the new stuff going on with our branding. I think it's wholesome. I think it's a good thing. What I would like to do is I would like to review where we are in that branding process, how we're moving this through rolling out through this, the entire county. What is the value? Have we achieved any value of that branding, or is it worth our time? And if it is worth our time, then how are we doing in getting the county to embrace the new branding? So I'd like to make a referral to have that review done and presented in front of the board at your earliest possible convenience.
Mr. CAO, do I need a motion on that matter?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. Mick, thank you. Are you done? Yes, ma'am. Okay, thank you. Supervisor Gleason and now Supervisor Couch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have some sad news, but I want to ask a favor of you if we could. I think all of you know or have met Pastor David Vivas in Delano, and I'm saddened to report that his son was killed in a drive-by shooting last week in Delano on County Line Road. So I would ask that we could adjourn the meeting today in the early morning session in his name was Adam Vivas, in his honor. And I would like to, I know that it's typical that the chair signs a letter that's sent to the family. I would ask that be done, or if it can be done, I would like to do that too. All right, thank you.
That's heavy. Thank you, Supervisor. Thank you. Any other board member announcements or reports? Seeing none, we will move to the remaining agenda items, which are numbers 23 and 24. I understand Mr. Brown is present and ready to proceed under retirement. Item number 23 is an actuarial valuation as of June 30th, 2019, employer and employee contribution rates for fiscal year 2020-2021 for the retirement system, as recommended by the Kern County Employees Retirement Association, also known as CASERA. 24 is pension projection analysis and actuarial standard of practice, number 51. ASOP 51 risk report presented by Siegel, CASERA's actuary. Mr. Brown, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, and good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. Again, my name is Dominic Brown, and I'm the Executive Director for the Kern County Employees Retirement Association. The bulk of our presentation this morning will be done by Paul Angelo. As you mentioned, we do have 2 items on the agenda. So the first one is the contribution rates. This is the time of year when annually we bring to you the mathematical computation of what it takes to keep the pension plan going in terms of contributions from the plan sponsor. So that will be an action item. The second one is here presentation. So we did something new this year and had some financial projections done related to actuarial projections and financial projections. So that will be the second presentation. That one does have a slide deck that I understand was distributed to you, and Paul Angelo will be doing the presentation on that. So the first agenda item is, again, the annual contribution rates. As indicated in the board letter, the fiscal impact for the upcoming year is $258.4 million. And there is a table that is included in the board letter that shows the difference from the prior year. So we do have an increase of 0.63% for the general members and an increase of 4.61% for the safety members. So recommended action is to adopt the contribution rates. That does conclude staff's presentation, and I'm prepared to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Very good. Is there, are there members of the public that would like to comment on this matter? That was brief. Thank you. Okay, moving right along.
Madam Chair, is that an action item?
Okay, we're going to vote on 23. Can I entertain a motion, please?
So moved.
We have a motion. It's the actuarial valuation as of June 30th, 2019.
So the motion is to adopt that.
To just receive and file, correct, Kathy? Oh, I'm sorry, to receive and file. Supervisor Gleason, are you chimed in? Okay, your thoughts?
Thank you. A couple thoughts. I don't know if this is time to ask it or not. It may be with this or it may not, and it may be related, but you came by the office yesterday, Don. We had a nice conversation for about a half hour or so about problems, issues, and how we're going to fix some things. One of the things we talked about was, and let me couch this, is that we hire an employee sometimes, and that employee works for 30 years. And there's a lifetime cost associated with that employee, not just a salary that he earns while he's working and a retirement cost. If you look at the life cycle cost of that employee, it's staggering. And I think that goes for anyone, as I was thinking about this, anyone who's been working is vested in our KSARA program after 5 years. And it goes up to the person who retires when they're 35 years. And one of the things we talked about was the fact that we have these employees come in and want pay raises, and I don't blame them because they haven't had COLAs in a significant amount of time. They get the step increases, but they don't get full satisfaction of consideration because we don't have the money to give them. But we do pay them pay raises, but we just pay them on the back end. Matter of fact, we give them significant pay raises at the end of their career. For example, the cost last year alone for our retirement cost blew up by, because of the adjusted rate of return, went up to $18 million, I think, last year is the total cost of increasing. Is that right, Mr. Alsop?
Sorry about that, Madam Chair, Supervisor Gleason. Yes.
General, let's just use it as a general number. It doesn't have to be exact. It's the idea I'm trying to get across. So in effect, really, from a life cycle perspective of these employees are getting pay raises. They're just not seeing them until they retire because we're padding the back end. And one of the things we talked about yesterday was, I asked the question, is there any way that we can take, everybody's circumstance of employment is different. Everybody's unique. They have family, they don't have family, they have all these costs, they have health issues, all this stuff. Is there any way we can take costs from that people need immediate satisfaction and move it from the back end to the front end? And we had some, I know you had some thoughts about that, Mr. Brown. I'd like to ask you what those thoughts are. And if that's applicable to 23 or 24?
So Supervisor Gleason, through the chair, the answer might be yes, but it's important to highlight what KSARA's role is in this process. So my responsibility as the Executive Director of KSARA is to administer the plan as it is currently constructed. So KSARA does not negotiate for a single one of the benefits that we are responsible for administering. That is the responsibility of the negotiators. And so is it possible that some of the costs could be accelerated or moved? Is it possible that labor groups might agree to move some of those costs from the future and accelerate some of those in a way that would affect their net pay currently? Yes, of course, that is possible, but it is not KSARA's role to do that. But what KSARA is more than happy to offer, what KSARA is very interested in doing, and has already made the offer to the county and to the labor groups, is KSARA is very happy to facilitate conversations, to facilitate information. We want KSARA to be a trusted source of good information so that people can negotiate in the light, understanding what the financial impacts are of various decisions. Paul, our actuary, is here. We've already gotten quotes from a couple of requests to study particular scenarios that could be negotiated in the future. That is KSARA's role in this process, and we are more than happy to engage plan sponsors and labor groups in anything that they might like to have studied and then negotiate for.
All I'm interested in is understanding in the world of in the universe of the possible, is that a tool that can be used in the conversation between management and labor to help satisfy specific individual needs as they arise. And I don't know if that would be something we could do or not, but I certainly would like to know if it is something that we can take a look at. And how do we go about doing that? Would we facilitate a study, or we have some pros from Dover come in and look at that and tell us what we can do, what we can't do?
Sure. So what we have done proactively, we have quarterly, every 4 or 5 months or so, we meet with the county, we meet with CAO, we meet with county council, we meet with HR in order to have some conversations like this. I also attend CCEOK meetings, which is where all the labor groups get together quarterly, and so I want to have a good relationship with them, communicate with them, be a trusted source of information for them as well. And yes, we are more than happy to study different scenarios if people want them studied. Now, we can't pay for them out of the plan if they're unique and the beneficiary is the group that wants to negotiate for that thing. We do have to pass through those costs, but we are available to do that. We're happy to do that so that better information is out there. We want everybody to understand what the moving parts are, what is negotiable and what is not negotiable. Some things are set in statute, but many things are agreed upon in MOUs, and that is what we administer. We administer the statute. We administer each individual MOU according to the provisions of that MOU, and there's a lot of things that are negotiable.
So I'd like to make that referral. I'd like to get a study done. I don't think it's going to cost too much money. I think it'd be fairly inexpensive just to get a look at, is it worth examining? Is this something that we haven't done? We can develop a tool that can help satisfy some of the concerns we hear on a consistent basis. Thank you. 4.57, something like that? What did we come up with this year for valuation, return on valuation?
Our return on our assets this year was approximately 5.1, 5.2%.
Okay.
Return on the total portfolio for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2019.
And we, at the assumed rate of return, we built our plan on 7.25, is that correct?
Yes, the assumed rate of return is what we project, what we anticipate, what the actuarial calculations are done based on over the next 30 years. Over the next 30 years, we currently anticipate we will make approximately 7.25% return on assets year over year.
Thanks. So I think it was a great year. Financially, in the financial markets throughout the entire country, we earned 4.57 in our fund, and the assumed rate of return is 7.25. What does that mean? How does that impact us, and what can we take from that in terms of how we manage our employees and how we manage our contracts and how we manage our budgets?
Sure,
Maybe, I don't know which one of you wants to answer that.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and pivot to Paul for some of that. So some of the actuarial analysis, what the different experience is, how that experience plays in, how often we review that, some of those things I'll defer to Paul Angelo, our actuary.
Now, Paul was let me tag onto that. It was a great year in the market last year. And we came up with 4.57. I think that's significantly underperforming most funds around, even conservative funds. I'd like you to talk about why we got 4.57, why do we even do better than that, and then what is the relationship between that performance and our assumed rate of return, and how is that going to impact us in decisions we make going down the road?
Sure, thank you. Thank you. Excuse me. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. First of all, I'm Paul Angelo with Seal Company, and here to support Dominic in the discussion of the valuation and to make another presentation, the next item. First of all, remember, we are looking at a June 30 year. And so I think that from June 30, 2018 to June 30, 2019, that's the valuation that we're looking at. And so I think a lot of, I'm not an investment expert, I'm a liability expert, but I think that the rate of return we're talking about did not include the second half of 2019, which is when I think we saw a lot of gains. And it did include the fact that as of December 31, 2018, the markets were considerably down. So part of the perception that the markets did so well when you only earned around 5% is because we're not looking at a calendar year, but rather the June 30, 18 to June 30, 19. I think that for most of our systems, because we work on several, June 30, that was a challenging year. So Kern is not unusual that during the July 18 to June 19 year, most of the systems, and as I understand it, did not meet their actual assumptions. So part of this is just that the good markets came after this valuation date. So what we are expecting is that when we get to the next valuation, we'll see more of those gains show up. So I think some of this is just that we're looking at a June 30 year, not a calendar year. Okay. As far as how it works, we are trying to deliver a stable pattern of contributions to the employers. So we have a number of techniques where we manage contribution volatility. We actually manage market volatility twice. We first take whatever the actual return is, we compare it to the assumed return, take that difference. That's the actuarial gain loss. So it's not whether you made money, it's whether you hit the 7.25. We actually split that into 5 pieces. So what will show up as 5 losses or 5 gains. We'll actually see in one of our graphs that the big 2008-9 downturn shows up in the graph as not 1 loss, but 5 losses. So the first thing we do is we do that because then ideally next year we'll have a gain. Meaning we'll earn more than 7.25. We spread that over 5 years, and eventually these two, eventually the gains and the losses over short-term tend to offset each other. So we drive the employer's costs not based on a 1-year return, but what amounts to roughly a 5-year average return. And then that gain or loss, even after being averaged over 5 years, is what we call amortized over a 20-year period for your fund.
How does the difference between 7.25 and that amortization impact us? What does that mean?
What it means is, first of all, you take in dollars, you take the 7.25, compare it to what you actually earned in dollars, and then you divide that by 5, okay? And then you take that amount and you calculate how much would it take to pay that over a 20-year period. I'm not going to be able to do the arithmetic for you here on the fly, but it substantially spreads that out over time.
Does that mean our contributions need to go up?
Oh, your contributions will go up, but they won't go up by the full amount of the loss.
You dampen that difference by spreading it over time, amortizing
Yes, sir.
it.
Yes, sir.
But it still means that it's going to cost, the costs of retirement are staggering.
Exactly right.
Is what it means.
And when you have gains, when you earn more than 7.25, they go down. We will see a graph in the next item where we show for the change in the employer contribution rate over, I think, the last 10 years, and you'll be able to see the biggest driver is investment losses. That's absolutely true. We'll show you a graphical picture of that.
Thank you very much, Mick. I don't see anyone else. Excuse me, Supervisor Maggard just chimed in. Supervisor.
Thank you. I'd like to ask a question about SRBR, the Supplemental Retirement Benefit Reserve that we have. And I believe, Mr. Brown, we are the only system in California, the only of the 58 counties that still has SRBR. Is that correct?
Alameda might still have a version of it. Tulare might still be administering theirs. I believe they did shut it off for future folks, but there is still an SRBR program. It is still being administered. The only counties that ever adopted Article 5.5, including the SRBR, were Alameda, Tulare, and Kern.
Thank you.
And if I may comment, at Alameda, the SRBR is very much an active program.
Active or inactive?
Active. Yeah. Okay. Alameda is the most active of the 3 SRBR counties. As Dominic pointed out, Tulare has closed theirs to new members, and yours, while active, it is not the level of benefits that we see at Alameda.
So SRBR, to take the mouthful of words that the title of this is, to boil it down to a simpler term. SRBR is a statutory agreement that we made that it has a fundamental element that I think is worthy of our analyzing whether or not we might be able to change. If we're going to change it, we don't do it by negotiation. We have to do it by changing state law. And that the element of SRBR, let me back up for a second. Well, Mr. Angelo, why don't you tell us what SRBR is, so it's you doing it, not me.
Okay, my understanding is that under it's Article 5.5 of the statutes, that there's a concept of excess earnings. That term isn't actually used in the law, but that's how it's referred to. And that means that anytime you earn more than the assumed rate of 7.25, that amount is split in two, and half of that gain goes to reduce the employer's contribution rates, and the other half goes into a reserve, and that reserve is available to pay additional benefits to the retirees at the discretion of the retirement board.
Thank you. That accurately describes my understanding as well. So here's what my concern is. The half of the gain in excess of the assumed rate of return, we are mandatorily putting back into the SRBR reserve and not paying down the deficit that we have, the unfunded liability that we have. So let's say, for example, that we were to earn 9.25% for the next fiscal year when the markets have done better. We would not enjoy that entire 2% amount of earnings in excess of the assumed rate of return. We only get half of it. And the SRBR fund is administered by our KCERA board, and they are duty-bound to spend that money to utilize it for more and more benefits for our retirees. I think it's a reasonable thing for us to discuss and contemplate a legislative fix for whether or not there are times that we do not need to put half of that gain back into the excess earnings, back into SRBR, but might help us reduce the overall deficit that we have so that it doesn't imperil the benefit for all of the rest of our employees. So I would ask us to have a discussion about that and to contemplate whether or not a legislative fix is something that the employees might join us in advocating for, because the sooner we eliminate this deficit that we have, this unfunded liability that we have, the more we will be capable to give raises to our employees to sustain the quality of life that they have. And I see some heads nodding at the back of the room from one of our employee groups. I believe our employees will be supportive of that. So I would urge us to have a discussion about whether or not a legislative fix to that might be possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Scribner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Supervisor Maggard, if my memory serves me correctly, I believe that most of our employee groups were in favor of supporting a change to SRBR when we discussed this maybe 5 or so years ago. Unfortunately, the largest union the largest union group did not, and I believe that was the sticking point. So hopefully things have changed between now and then, and we can tackle that issue one more time. From what I understand, our retirement costs are expected to increase by nearly $15 million in the next fiscal year, 2020, 2021 fiscal year. We have this discussion once a year about our retirement rates and retirement costs, and I feel like it would be beneficial for us to have it more often, because this is really the financial impediment between us and being able to provide meaningful cost of living increases for our employees. We hear oftentimes from employee groups, I wish that the folks that were here from the United Domestic Workers would have stayed for this discussion after they were in here asking us for raises, because this is truly I think the main contributor to our inability to provide our employees with what they would like to see as far as cost of living increases. We have been able to provide some raises to specific groups, targeted raises to address glaring retention issues One was doing F-step with our detention deputies, another was were raises specific to positions in the sheriff's department. Obviously, we continue to have our step increases for employees that have been with us for 6 or so years. They get a 5% every year. But as far as the cost of living increase, they haven't seen that for about 10 years. And during that same amount of time, our pension costs have gone up by 70%, 70, in the 10-year span of time. I don't remember exactly what the dollar figure on that is, but I think it's in the ballpark of about $180 million. I'm looking to the CAO's office to maybe give me a more accurate number if I'm off by much.
Madam Chairwoman, Supervisor Scrivener, since 2010, the actual retirement costs across all funds, so this is what the county pays for employee retirement, has increased by 68.5% in just the past 10 years, and a total of $117.5 million.
117.5. Does that include our the POBs, pension obligation bonds?
Yes, it
okay,
does.
So I don't know what a 4% raise across the board would be, and for an annual cost increase. Do you have an idea what that is per year if it was across all employee groups?
Yeah, for every 1%, it's $8 million.
8 million. So you said 117. We'll call it 120 million that our retirement costs have gone up over the 10 years. And so the point I'm driving home here is what we would have been capable of providing as far as cost of living increases if it wasn't for these costs going up. And so that's why I think that it's important for us to continue to have this discussion so our employees and the public understands the constraints that we're under financially because of these cost increases going up as fast as they are. So I do have a question that I've been waiting to ask. And so, Mr. Brown, can you give us some idea? Back in 2007, the county changed the retirement tier for our non-safety employees from the 3 at 60 benefit, which for the public, it's who doesn't live and breathe this stuff like we've all unfortunately had to do. When you multiply 3% times the highest salary times the number of years, that's where you get the 3 at 60 or the 3 at 50 for safety. So in 2007, we changed that to 1.62 at 65 for non-safety, and I think it was about 2012 when we went from 3 at 50 to 2 at 50. And so when can we expect to start seeing, because of those reforms that we put in place in our retirement system, when do you think we can start seeing our costs going down rather than continuing to go up?
So if you don't mind waiting, Supervisor Scrivener, through the chair, we do have a chart in the next presentation that answers exactly that question.
Great, thank you. Okay, I'll wait. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Supervisor Scrivener. Supervisor Couch.
Thank you. Just because the discussion of SRBR came up, I wanted to ask a question to remind myself of the answer, and that is, and I think this is the case, but I want to verify it. When we talk about the supplemental retiree benefit reserve, reserve to me indicates that there is an account somewhere with a specific amount of money in it, or it's invested somehow and it earns interest, dividends, whatever, it fluctuates in value. Is that the case with SRBR? Or is SRBR more of an accounting function?
I believe it's more of an accounting function. Dominic can check me on that. It is not invested separately, so it is really it's a book, a journal entry, and an account that is maintained along with other reserves that are maintained by the system.
Understood. So I mean, that to me is an important point that I think is lost in the discussion oftentimes, that there is no. When we say, and because it is often said, SRBR is overfunded, the accounting function that they go through shows a surplus. But if somebody were to go write a check out of SRBR, I'm simplifying it, for the amount of dollars that are allegedly there, it's not there.
Well, I mean, there are funds that
They're all
represent that
invested in
amount.
they're all invested
It's
in
all
the big
invested
pool,
together,
right? But
And maybe I'm not quite sure on the question, Supervisor Couch. The funds that are in the SRBR, this may be slightly off point,
they're in the main pool.
they're in the main pool, but when we calculate the employer's funded status, which determines their contribution rate, we exclude those assets. They're what we call non-valuation reserve,
Which results in what?
which means that the cost of the employer contributions is higher than it would be if those assets were available to fund what I call the statutory benefits, the regular benefits. Because, as we understand the statute, they can only be used for special benefits. We don't want to spend them twice, and so we do not count them. Now, that means if you suddenly withdrew those funds, it would not change the employer's contribution rate because we're not counting those funds.
Gotcha, thank you.
But they're not invested separately.
Now in English, please.
That's as close as it gets to English, so that was it.
Oh, man, okay.
Sorry, I know. We have pictures.
Thank you. And colors, please, bright
Yes,
colors.
we have bright colors, yeah, we have bright colors.
Supervisor Mackert.
Thank you. I want to make sure there's no ambiguity about this. While it may be the case that SRBR reserve dollars are in the same investment pool as the other plan dollars, those dollars are not available for use to pay regular retirement benefits. They are an enhancement to retirement benefits. So are they not sequestered or restricted dollars from the pool that are not available to make up what is our unfunded liability?
That is certainly, these are legal questions. I cannot give you legal advice, but that is absolutely how we run the valuation. It's as though they're not in the fund.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, do you agree?
I do, and just to reconfirm, there is only one investment portfolio. There are not side pots of different money in different places. There is one investment portfolio. One other side note on the SRBR, if I may. So the SRBR, the excess earnings, is the way that is calculated. I've been told, it predates me, but I've been told that no new money has gone into the SRBR in over 20 years. It continues to earn interest on the money that is in there, but because of the 5-year smoothing, there can't just be one good performance year. There has to be 5 sustained performance years that exceed the assumed rate of return before any new money would go into the SRBR, and that has not happened for quite some time.
You're done, Supervisor Maggard. Thank you. I see no other supervisors punched in at this point. Any other comments or information that needs to be stated? Okay, well, it looks like we've come to the end of that item. Is there?
Need a motion?
I was going to ask for public comment, Kathy? I did that. Okay, thank you. So we'll close the public portion officially. It looks like my colleagues have an opportunity to ask questions and chime in. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Thank you. I will entertain a motion for receive and file.
It's to adopt. I think I made a motion to adopt the actuarial valuation.
Mine says receive and file. Item number 23, excuse me. So on item number 23, your motion, Supervisor Couch?
Yes, to adopt. So
Thank you. We have a motion by Supervisor Couch. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Thank you so much for your incredible insight and efforts at explaining complicated matters. We do appreciate it. Item number 24, Kathy. Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Floor is yours.
Thank you. So I already said a lot of things that I was going to say to really introduce this item, but just want to reiterate again what KSAR's responsibility is in this process is to administer the benefits as they currently exist by statute and by MOU. So this is a new report. This has not been done before. I had a couple of questions. I know the county has had questions over the years, one of which Supervisor Scrivener already reiterated this morning, which is when does the unfunded liability get paid off? And number 2, when does the Tier 1 benefit crest and then actually begin to recede and go down the other side? So those 2 questions were kind of the impetus of this report. So actuarial studies are done every year. They're largely looking back at the past and then setting contribution rates for the future. But we wanted this to be very projection-based. We did some stochastic modeling, kind of around the notion of where are we now and where are we going and what is going to be the impact to our plan sponsors, and when does that relief come? When does the Tier 1 to Tier 2 shift really kind of kick in, and when does that budgetary relief begin to happen? When does the unfunded liability get paid off? When did the amortization layers get paid off? Especially the restart amortization from 2005 that still has over $1 billion just in that one layer. That is very, very significant. And once those are paid off, then it will be better times, but we are not quite there yet. So one other thing I wanted to say is that, a lot of this information, I think it's very, very helpful, and it can be interpreted in different ways. People might use the information in here in order to bolster their position for negotiation. KSARA doesn't really take any direct part in that. Our interest is getting good, analytical, unbiased actuarial information so that we know where we are going as a plan and what the plan sponsors are going to experience as we move forward. So KSARA, our management, our board, we do not do anything to conspire with our plan sponsors against our labor groups or conspire with the labor groups against our plan sponsors. Again, we want to be a fair and impartial source of good and trusted information. So with that brief introduction, thank you. I'll go ahead and hand it over to Paul, and he will walk through the slide deck here.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown. And again, Madam Chair, thank you, members of the board. Paul Angel with Siegel Consulting. And as Dominic mentioned, this is the first time that we are presenting this so-called risk report. The slides before you have a certain amount of text that I am not really going to cover. We're going to go right to the pictures, but you can use the slides as references. It talks about what the standard says and what the recommended content is. The reason the standard was passed is that there was a perception that when we talk to retirement boards and to stakeholders with our valuation, it's like we were telling you, because we assume 7.5%, you're going to actually earn 7.5% every year. Now, I've never heard an actuary say that, but the idea is to try to give a little more description of what are the risks of the assumptions not coming true. That's really what this is all about. They go through the things that are supposed to be in there. The standard does not require a quantitative assessment. I could simply come here and say, if people live longer than assumed, your costs will go up. But KSARA's staff has decided that a range of quantitative measures would be good for you, and that's what we're going to be focusing on today. Both what's called deterministic, what if you have a good year or a bad year, and then you earn the assumption from then on. And then perhaps the most number crunching of all is these so-called stochastic studies with probabilities of different events. We find different stakeholders find different versions of those more or less helpful. We also have some things called plan maturity measures. This is mainly why it is that as the plan gets older, the contributions become more volatile. It also will touch on why it is that, for example, if we do an assumption change that makes the cost go up, why the safety rates always seem to go up more than the general member rates. And again, there are descriptions in here that show how that works. This is just a little picture of the different kinds of risks. We are not assessing political risks. Around the country, there are plans where the employers have no legal requirement to actually fund on an actuarial basis. That is not the case in California. So actually the political risk within California, once the benefits are adopted, 37 Act is a pretty ironclad demand on you as the employer to fund those benefits. So we don't have to worry about that so much. So we're going to do two things. We're going to look backwards, then we're going to look forwards. Historical information, there are tables of what the history of the funded ratio is. There's a chart that shows that. But what we wanted to focus here is not so much what the historical contribution rates and historical unfunded liabilities have been, but rather the changes in those. So here's our first colored graph. Now, it looks a little busy, but the idea is each color, and this is now looking at the at the unfunded liability, we'll have a similar one that looks at the employer contribution rate. Let me just turn to this one because it's bigger. The red bars there, those are the increases, the amount of increase in unfunded liability in each of the last 10 years due to investment experience. So as you can tell, if you just step back and look at this, the thing that has the most impact on the increase in the unfunded liability over the last 10 years has been investment experience. And a lot of it, you'll see that first bar is 2009. And these are fiscal years. So these are June 30, the year before, to June 30 of the year shown here. The reason that you see three big red bars there is that's the giant loss market loss in 2008-9 that was spread over 5 years. You might say, well, then why aren't there like 5 equal bars? Well, that's because after 2009, we had some gains that offset them. That's why we do asset smoothing. But really, this red shows the largest single effect and piece of experience that led to your increases unfunded our investment experience over the last 10 years. The second largest one is those 2 big green columns. Those are changes in actuarial assumptions, both in members living longer and also lower expected returns on your assets. Now, this is a classic case of no good deed goes unpunished. It is absolutely actuarially sound that the retirement board has recognized that people are living longer and has recognized that, you know, because fixed income isn't delivering 6% like it did 20 years ago, it's delivering 3%. You just can't get the same sort of 8% expected returns that you used to have. Nevertheless, every time we remeasure the liabilities using more conservative, appropriately conservative assumptions, it does make the funded status go down and makes the liability go up. So the 2 largest drivers, really, of experience in the fund, and this is common throughout the country for public plans, are investment return and changes in actuarial assumptions. On the next slide, we take the same effects, but now we look and see how they affected the employer contribution rate. I think this gets to the supervisor's earlier question. Again, my God, it's easier to see. As you can see, those first, once again, the first 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 bars, that red, that is the amount that the employer contribution rate on average, the average employer contribution rate. You have a lot of different tiers, general and safety, that have different contribution rates. We average them all together to get that number that's currently around 45%. So what this shows is in those first 2009, 10, 11, 12, and 13, the principal thing that caused the employer rate to go up was investment experience. And in particular, you can see in 2009, for example, when we took the 2008-9 market loss, divided it by 5, and then amortized it over 20 years, that alone increased the employer rate by about 2.5% of pay. So that's as close, that's our quantitative answer to the question that was asked during the earlier item. Again, the second biggest impact is the green, and that was the effect of the assumption changes. The last assumption change was actually being phased in over 3 years. That's why you see, we only saw one big green bar on the unfunded liability. That's when we changed the assumption, but we phased in the cost impact for the safety members for county over 3 years. That's why you see 2 green bars there. Next year, there would be 1 more green bar, the last third of that. Finally, the non-investment experience, you've actually had some experience that was favorable to the plan. During this period, you had pay increases less than assumed. Whenever we assumed that salaries are going to go up on the average about 3.25% a year, plus additional raises for merit and promotion. When you have a situation like we did after 2009, where we saw very flat salaries, that actually produces an actuarial gain. And so that's what those blue bars are. And those actually had the effect of offsetting some of the other cost increases. So here we see, again, a picture of all the things that affect the employer contribution rate. 3 main drivers: investment return, assumption changes. Those are both in the loss direction. And then in the gain direction, we actually had some favorable experience. Actually, low cost of living increases also factored into this. So you had lower than expected salaries, lower than expected cost of living increases. Let me pause for a moment just because this is sort of a picture of how we got to where we are today, at least over the last 10 years. Through the chair, of course. Anything? Okay. Let me turn the page. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Here's another picture. We're going to now look at plan maturity. Actually, I'm not going to say much about plan maturity measures. We get really deep into the weeds here. I'm going to jump forward to a little slightly hard to read table. What this really points out, and I'll just say the words, anytime, let's suppose you had a 10% investment loss. I'm not saying we're going to. But if you did, the impact on the safety contribution rates would be almost twice as big as the impact on the general member contribution rates, because the assets compared to payroll is twice as big for safety compared to general. So this is just, we use this mainly to help our trustees. Sometimes the safety trustees ask, why is it whenever there's bad news, it seems to hit the safety harder? It's just because there's a larger relationship of assets and liabilities to payroll for safety compared to general. And that's really all I'm going to try to do on the volatility ratios. This is, again, something we use mainly for our internal conversation with the board. So now we're going to shift to looking forward and look at different quantitative ways to assess risk. I've listed here on the next slide the 4 ones that are listed in the standard. The ones that we are going to do for you are the second one here, which is called a scenario test. What would happen if one particular assumption did not come true for a fairly short period of time? How would that affect your costs? It's a measure of how sensitive your costs are to experience. And then we're also, on the next one, we did a full stochastic study. And again, if you don't like numbers, you're going to hate the stochastic study, but we try to boil that down into some summary information. So let's look at one of these scenario tests. These, I think, are crucial graphs. We have all 3 of these in here. This is the employer contribution rate. Okay, the 2018, again, this was done with the 2018 report. It's there at about, right about 45%. And the blue line in the middle, those little blue triangles, that is what the expected contribution rates will be if the fund earns 7.25% every year like clockwork. Now, the first thing we notice here, you'll see it's sort of a plateau, but it's drifting downward. That is the effect of the new tiers. The employer contribution rate is made up of 2 parts. There's an amount to pay off the unfunded, and there's an amount to pay the current cost of current service, called the normal cost. Well, in your plan, the normal cost is about 10% of pay. You can actually see that way off to the right here, which means there's about 35% of pay that's being used to pay off the unfunded liability. I think another supervisor made the comment that that's really where the competition for county resources is felt the most strongly. So what happens during that plateau, that's while you're paying off the unfunded, the normal cost is gradually getting lower as the higher normal cost legacy tier members are replaced by lower normal cost PEPRA tier members. Now, it's not a very dramatic effect compared to that 35% of the unfunded, but that really is where you see the gradual effect of the transfer, or the turnover, if you will, from legacy tier members to the PEPRA members. It makes that normal cost drift down over time. The next dramatic thing on here, you might say, what's happening out there in 2035? Well, as Dominic mentioned, in 2005, the board restarted the amortization of the unfunded to take a 30-year payment, to take the unfunded at that time and pay it off over 30 years. Since then, we measure any new unfunded in what's called layers. We're not going to go into layers here, but what that shows is 2035 is 30 years after 2005. And so whatever else happens between now and then, the county, that's you, will have finished paying off that 2005 layer, and so in 2035, you will see a dramatic drop in the contribution rate. Now, under this here, since we're assuming there's no more gains and losses, I know it's a little while, there's no more gains and losses between now and then, that's why it drops down to the 10%. Exactly. People always want me to say other things will happen between now and then, but not whatever happens between now and 2035, there will be a substantial drop in the employer contribution, not because of any generosity, but simply because the county and the taxpayers will have fully paid off that 2005 unfunded liability. So there's a lot of things that show up here. You see let me throw one more. You can see the SRBR in here. Okay, we've been talking so far about the blue line. Okay, what's the red and the green line? This is the good news, bad news. Okay, the red line, which is the red squares, suppose in 1 year, just 1 year, instead of earning 7.25, the fund earns 0. That 1 year of loss, we would again divide it. We compare the 0 return to the expected return, divide it by 5. You'll see that it takes about 5 years for these lines to sort of stabilize. So the red line is how much the contributions would go up if you had 1 year of investment return of 0, and then went right back to earning 7.25 every single year. The green line is what would happen if you had a good year. Instead of earning 7.25, we like to be symmetrical, so like 2 times 7.25 is 14.5. What if in 1 year you earn 14.5, double the assumed rate? That would make your rates go down. Now that dip there is a peculiarity of the fact that you have something called a COLA reserve. This all gets into your SRBR machinery. It is complicated, but if you sort of ignore that part and just go out to the middle, you might ask yourself, well, wait a second. If the red line means we missed the assumption by 7 1/4 in a bad way, and if the green line means we missed the assumption by 7 1/4 in a good way, why aren't they symmetrical around the blue line? That's the SRBR. Because when you have a bad year, all that loss goes into the unfunded liability. But when you have a good year, half of that gain is diverted or allocated to the SRBR. So roughly speaking, these things aren't quite to scale, roughly speaking, when we do these for other funds, the red and the green are exactly symmetrical around the baseline. Whereas because of the SRBR, the space between the blue and the red is about twice as big as the space between, I'll say it the other way, the space between the blue and the green is only half the size, the other half is going into the SRBR. So here we have a picture of the new tier coming in, that's the slope down. We have a picture of your restarted unfunded liability being fully paid off in 35 years at the end of, in 2035. And we also see the effect, the asymmetrical effect of the SRBR on gains versus losses. The next two slides have the same information, but for the funded ratio and for the unfunded in dollars, but you'll see pretty much the same patterns there. And again, we just find these, one thing we also have, we find that sometimes the employer can use this as a short-term budgeting tool, just using the first two numbers here. If you know what the return is during the year, you can sort of interpolate, but since these are last year, that won't help you with that. But again, here's a picture of the turnover in tiers, the full amortization of the restart liability at 2035, and the asymmetrical impact on gains and losses because of the SRBR. How am I doing? Okay. Let's go through. Now this one, this is actually a slide that we developed specifically for Sarah, and Mr. Brown was instrumental. This, we've been talking at the contribution rates. Now we're looking at the unfunded liability, okay? So what we've got here, all these stripes, this is how the accrued liability is where we measure the costs that have accrued to date. We compare that to plan assets, and the difference is the unfunded liability. That's the thing that gets amortized. What we've got here is that green line with the squares, those are the projected assets. Again, this is all assuming that the fund earns 7 1/4 per year. These are all baseline. The rest of this is the unfunded liability for 4 different groups. The bottom one in red is the legacy general members, general tier 1. The next one up in blue is the safety legacy, the safety tier 1. Then above that, the sort of orange thing that starts skinny and then gets fat, that is the new general tier coming in. And then the way at the top, that's sort of also bluish, slightly different blue, is the safety PEPRA tier. So what this shows is over time, the unfunded liability due to the legacy tiers will continue to grow to about 2030, but then will eventually pay itself down. And then it will be replaced by accrued liabilities. I said unfunded liability. These are the accrued liabilities. The accrued liability will eventually, once all those members retire, as they start to die, the accrued liability will tail out. And then you'll see coming in the accrued liability for the 2 new tiers. And the other thing you can see here, you see we're about 2035. That's when the green line goes above the liabilities. That's when you have paid off your entire unfunded liability. So again, this gives an idea. I think that there's sometimes a feeling of when are we going to have the unfunded liability paid off? We saw one picture of that when we saw the total cost drop down to normal cost. That's when the unfunded's paid off. Here's another way of seeing that. When the green asset line eventually crosses the bars of the liability, that's when the unfunded liability is being paid off. And again, all on a schedule, but also all assuming no future bad news. And it's always that's nice work if you can get it. So. Okay. The other thing is now stochastic modeling, and again, we use stochastic modeling fairly with a lot of discretion because it can be a little bit overwhelming with all the numbers. The thing about your system, though, because you have the SRBR, if you do a deterministic projection where you always earn the assumed rate, the SRBR is never triggered. So you really need to do sort of a probability distribution of results in order to see how that works. So I am not going to do a whole lot on this. I mean, the pictures can be a little bit scary looking. What we've got here now, instead of the deterministic projection of the employer rates, which remember had that big drop in 2035, well, you still see that here, but now what we've got is the sort of dark blue gray in the middle. That's your 50% range. There's a 50% chance that the results will land in that dark blue range in the middle. And then there's a 25% chance it'll land in the light blue at the top, and a 25% chance it'll land in the light blue at the bottom. So there's some probability that you would have very good returns, and you would actually go into full funding, not in 2035, but as early as 2028. That's, you can see where the bars drop down. You notice they never drop down to 0. They only drop down to 10%, because that's where the normal cost kicks in. And then you can also see on the sort of on the bad news side how high the rates could go. But you'll notice even in the bad news scenario, which is the light blue stuff at the top, when you get down to 2035, 2036, you're still going to see a drop down in the cost because that unfunded liability layer was paid off. Now, again, to try to boil this down, we have a similar graph for the accrued liability and a similar graph for the funded ratio. Pretty much the sort of the statistical version of those deterministic ones we showed you before. The last thing we'll put here, this is just we take a couple of particular scenarios. What's the probability that the at the bottom that the total employer rate would jump up by a certain amount in a single year? And these are all just different ways to extract results from the stochastic study. If I were boiling all this down, for me, I think the real takeaways are those deterministic graphs where you can see the effect of the tiers turning over. You can see the effect of the unfunded liability policy, and you can also see the effect of the SRBR. So there are other information in the slides that I went over, which I leave to you for reference. But Madam Chair, this concludes our prepared remarks, and we invite your questions and discussion.
Well, now it's totally clear. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. See?
Thank you. I really appreciate your expertise and your emphasis on Kern County's well-being. I greatly appreciate it. Are there members of the public that would like to weigh in and give us some of your thoughts? Okay, we'll close the public portion. Are there any questions from my board or direction from staff? Okay,
I have a question.
colleagues. I'm so sorry. Supervisor Maggard has plugged in as well as CAO. So we'll start with Supervisor Maggard.
Thank you. I'd like to go back to the graph you had. I have it marked as chart 11, one preceding that. Well, preceding that, that has the red.
Yes.
You're talking to a colorblind guy, but red and brown and.
This one here?
No, the tiers. The tiers.
Oh, the tiers. Yes, sir. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
That one projects a break-even point where we have fully funded our liability in the year 2035. Is that correct?
Correct.
So I think the $1 million, really the 180 million, or the billions of dollars value of the question is, how do we get from 2020 to 2035? And in a conversation I had with Mr. Brown yesterday, he offered his services to help us brainstorm about how the CAO's office and how KSERA's management can work together to come up with a plan of how we get from 2020 to 2035. So I would like to ask the CEO's office and KSERA's management to have that conversation, to engage us in it if we need to, and come back to us with a plan of how we get from today to 2035 when this thing can be paid off. A second question is that I think we need to ask ourselves whether or not a defined benefit plan like we have, would you, Mr. Angelo, sorry, I struggle to remember your last name. Mr. Angelo, would you tell us the difference between a defined benefit and a defined contribution plan?
Sure. Defined benefit plan is what you have where the benefit is described as a lifetime income to the member based upon a formula that usually is based on salary and age. And that's why basically the retirement system, while the promise is made today, the benefit is actually delivered in the future. So what's defined as the benefit, and then because it depends upon things that will happen between now and then, you need an actuary to come in and determine what contributions today would be expected to make good on those promises. And by the way, your actual assumptions, and particularly your funded policy, are designed to specifically make sure that if the contributions are made by the employer, the money will be there to pay the benefits. Defined contribution plan, in contrast, is the benefit is defined as the contribution. In the corporate world, these are called 401k plans usually. And so the member is given an amount of money today. They may be given some investment vehicles, but there is no guarantee of lifetime income. And so all of the risk of longevity and investments is on the members. I think a lot of the trades will say that one of the principal differences, and since this is a risk report, it's a very germane question, there's always a risk that a person's going to outlive their money, and there's always a risk that the assumption or that that's the principle, that this person's going to outlive their money, and there's also a risk that the plan will end up being more expensive than you thought it was. Well, in a defined benefit plan, those risks are primarily on the employer, whereas in a defined contribution plan, those risks are entirely on the members.
That's the point I'm leading to. And right now, we have a hybrid system for the most recent employees that work for the County of Kern. They're in both a defined benefit and a defined contribution arrangement, where we guarantee a smaller stream of benefits throughout their lifetime, but they have what I think is already a generous match. Is it not 4%? 6%. 6%, if they put away 6% of their salary, if they make $100,000 and they put in $6,000, we put another $6,000 on top of that. We will match dollar for dollar up to that 6%. So that is the defined contribution. The 401k model is the way that most of the world outside of government lives and operates today. And I think the question for us to ask ourselves is, as we work through how we're going to get from 2020 to 2035, where we fully fund this obligation, how do we fix that obligation, and the employer, the taxpayers of Kern County, and the employees of Kern County don't have to suffer with the variances of when we have a good year, when we have a bad year, the hundreds of millions of dollars we've had to add into the system. Is there a simpler way to do that? And that is have a defined contribution retirement benefit for the employees of Kern County. So I think that's a conversation worth having. And there's another, to boil it down to its most essential, simplest terms, what we have now is a system where an employee receives a guarantee of benefits throughout their lifetime. If they die 6 months, a year, or 5 years after they leave here, they have a very, they could forfeit very substantial assets that might otherwise go to their family if they were in a defined contribution plan. Because in a defined contribution plan, they're completely vested in all of their contributions and all of the contributions that the employer matched. And I think there's an opportunity for us to change the way we look at this and see some potential tremendous benefits that could go to our employees if we ever shift from the defined benefit to the defined contribution plan in total. So thank you, Mr. Angelo, for your comments. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Zach Scrivener.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know I'm jumping in ahead of CAO, so apologize for that. But 2 questions. One, for Mr. Angelo. So this 2035 number, that's when that's when we pay off the unfunded liability, essentially. But that assumes a 7.25% rate of return every year between now and then, correct?
On average, yes.
So if the fund does not perform that well, then that number of when that gets paid off is pushed out farther?
Yes. Yes.
So this depends on a lot of things that are going to happen nationally with elections coming up. There's a few people running that I think would have a significant detrimental effect on the stock market's performance if they were elected, but I'll leave that for another forum. The second question is, as far as the defined contribution and defined benefit plans, if memory serves, the state of California, the law at least was that public safety has to have a defined benefit plan and not a defined contribution. Am I correct on that? That you can't do a defined contribution plan for public safety in the state of California? I don't know. I thought that might be the case. So if we're going to enter into this conversation, we need to make sure that we know whether or not that was the case, is the case.
Supervisor Scrivener, through the chair, I am not aware of such a requirement.
Okay.
It may exist. I am not aware of it.
Okay. So I'd like to know that when staff comes back. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Scrivener. Thank you, Supervisor Scrivener. CAO's office, I'm not sure who punched in.
I did. I just wanted to ask if we could go back to slide 7, please, sir. And I wanted to thank Sarah for being here today and the very organized, detailed presentation that they have for us. Yeah, so slide 7, I think.
There we go.
The attribution.
This one, oh, no, this one.
One more.
Yeah, yeah, that would be fine right there. I just wanted to point out, so Mr. Brown had stated earlier that the role of Sarah is, and his role is to administer the retirement plan. I just wanted to make I wanted to ask the question really, is investment experience the role of Sarah? Whose role is the investment experience?
So thank you for the question, Mr. Alsop. I was going to make one conclusionary statement, and that actually rolls right into what I was going to say. So the Board of Retirement is primarily the ones that are responsible for making all of these decisions. The Board of Retirement is quite a unique board. The composition of that board, 4 are directly appointed by your Board of Supervisors. There are 9 voting members. 4 are directly appointed by your board. 4 are elected from the membership, 2 general, 1 safety, 1 retiree, and 1 ex officio is the treasurer tax collector. They set the asset allocation. The asset allocation is reviewed and adopted annually. What asset allocation means is they take the entire portfolio and then they allocate percentages of the portfolio to different investment classes. So we have a certain amount in equity, we have a certain amount in fixed income, we have a certain amount in hedge funds and private markets, et cetera, et cetera. So they spend a lot of time discussing that. We have a chief investment officer that is fantastic. We are looking to build his team in order to try to maximize our investment income. Sarah only has 2 modes of revenue. One is investment returns, the other is plan sponsor contributions. Every dollar we get from the market is a dollar less that we have to charge to our plan sponsors. So the asset allocation, the investment function is extremely important, and the rates of how the asset allocation is adopted annually, reviewed and adopted annually by the Board of Retirement. That accounts for as much as 98, 99% of our investment performance is directly tied to asset allocation, not tied to individual manager selection or other things like that. So that is how the asset allocation is set and where the assets come from.
Thank you. And I just wanted to ask, and I think you hit on it, investment experience is, in this case, in the red, what is that? I mean, how is that defined by Sarah?
So every year we have performance.
I'm getting to a point in a second. I just wanted to, sorry, thank you for your time.
Oh, sure, absolutely. So our portfolio currently stands at $4.5 billion. As chart 11, it's called chart 11, it's a different page on here. As the tier analysis shows, our assets are needing to increase over the years in order to satisfy the liability. So again, we do not determine the liability. The liability is the benefit promises that our plan sponsors made to their employees. It is our responsibility to make sure that those promises are kept. Think of it as the plan sponsors are the promise makers, we are the promise deliverers. In order to deliver that promise, we need assets in order to do that. We get it from the market, we get it from the plan sponsors, and the members themselves do contribute small amounts as well. That amount is growing as the tier 1 to tier 2 shift. There's a different benefit formula. There's more participation from the membership in terms of contributing to their own retirement costs. So that is how, I think that answers your question.
Yeah, and so the red is, just for clarification, because I know that people are watching, and I think this is a very important exercise that we're undertaking here is your body. The red is the investment experience, which is the biggest contributor to employer contributions toward pension benefits. The red represents essentially, for lack of a better description, not hitting the projected assumed rate of return, which today is 7.25%.
Yes.
And it was 7.5%. Previously, at some point, it was changed and downgraded. The green bars on the same chart, which is the second biggest reason for increased employer contributions, is the assumption changes. Could you briefly talk about the interrelation between the investment experience and the assumption changes and how that works? Is one a catalyst to the other, in part or in whole? How does that work?
All right, so I'll start, and maybe Paul will chime in as well. So the expected rate of return actually went as high as 8.25%. Paul recently provided all of the administrators and all of the SACR system a matrix from 1978. In 1978, I have a matrix that shows what all of the expected rate of returns were back then. At that point in time, Kern County was the lowest amongst all the SACR systems at an even 5%. So because of the great market returns, 80s, 90s, all predates me, but market expectations were very high, and people at that point in time believed that that was the new normal and it would continue on indefinitely into the future. So since then, some of that expectations have been lowered. So we went from 8.25 down to 8, down to 7.75, 7. Now we stand at 7.25. So historically, it was as low as 5% that I know of. What's the right number? It's anybody's guess what the right number is, but we're responsible for setting a number that is the expectation for the next 30 years. So what the Board of Retirement decided in the wake of the financial crisis in 2008, when the portfolio lost 20%, was that was very painful for our plan sponsors. Volatility, especially loss of principal in the portfolio, is extremely painful to our plan sponsors. And so what they did was they de-risked a little bit. The portfolio became a little bit more conservative. So what that means is that in years when other plans might be doing very well, we underperform a little bit because the Board of Retirement made the decision that it was of a greater benefit to our plan sponsors in the long run to be a little bit more conservative. Now, right now we sit in 2020, markets have performed pretty well for a long time. Most market analysts indicate that we are several years overdue for a down cycle. So the Board of Retirement made the decision, well, we'll just stay the course because we don't want to lose 20% again. If there is a market downturn, we don't want to lose 20% of principal. That is very painful for our plan sponsors. So what in effect that basically means is that we're making the red bars smaller in the future. There might still be red bars, but the red bars will be smaller. There's less volatility. Another impact of that is that it decreases the likelihood of having excess returns of money that will go into SRBR because the portfolio is more conservative. So therefore, it reduces the likelihood of new monies going into SRBR by being more conservative. It reduces the highs, but it also reduces the lows. And so that's the strategic decision that the Board of Retirement made, with the belief that it was for the greatest good for the plan sponsors to reduce some of that volatility.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. May I continue to ask? I just said the blue bars are the non-investment experience, and there was a comment made about this board's the Board of Supervisors decision making that is largely reflected in these blue bars that we have here, which demonstrates or illustrates a positive contribution toward county or employer contribution rates. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I'll defer to Paul on this. I know you said that a large percentage, I don't know what part of the blue bar is all related to not giving raises. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I don't know the exact, but it's a combination of that, but also the fact that inflation was low, which means that, you know, the full 3% COLAs, you have to check me on the maximum COLA tiers.
2.5% max
Yeah.
COLA for retirees.
Right, so in the years when actual inflation was less than 2.5%, we have been assuming that the plan would pay the 2.5% COLA every year, because we actually have an inflation assumption back during this time of around 3%. And so any year that the actual COLA was less than 2.5%, that was a gain. And similarly, whenever salaries did not increase at about an average of 3 to 3.5% a year, that was also gain. So this is both salary experience and COLA experience.
Okay. Okay, so, you know, the takeaway for me is that the red and the green, essentially took away our ability to provide what was planned on for the 2.5%. But I appreciate that. I did want to ask one really, I think, direct question, which is on the 7.25. I think, Mr. Brown, that you'd come in here, I think a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. You had made a comment, and I don't remember what the context was, and so maybe I've got this wrong, but you made a comment about an increasingly lower return rate. And it was a little shocking in that, for guys for people like us, we panic a little bit in trying to figure out how we deal with that. But I wanted to ask you really directly what, as the staff person at KSARA, how confident are you that 7.25 is going to be 7.25? I mean, everything that you showed today was based on, right, 7.25. Do you believe we're going to go lower? Do you, at this point, are you and your staff having any conversations, or have you provided any overview to the board, the KSARA board, on the potential for going to 7 or even below 7 at any time, either in the near future or longer term?
So the short answer is it's impossible to know at any point in time, and that is why built into our system we have what is called an experience study once every 3 years. So every 3 years we take the temperature and say, okay, how realistic is it that we continue to have 7.25 in the future? Many of our peers have already gone lower. Our actuaries have put us on notice that the inflation assumption is going to be dropping by 1/4. So in order for the overall rate to not go down, we have to find 1/4 somewhere else, and there aren't a lot of moving parts. So our investment team is working on trying to find a way to increase risk, but not just equity risk, increase risk in ways that are smart and intelligent and benefit the plan without increasing volatility. So we'll see how that shakes out. There's no way that I can get ahead of the Board of Retirement. That hasn't happened yet. The experience study will be conducted around the middle of this year. That is when all the data will be presented to our Finance Committee and then to our board, and ultimately the board will make that decision.
All right. Thank you very much. I just wanted to emphasize that what would a 1/4 rate reduction in assumed rate of return do to our employer contribution rate? Ms. Martinez, what would that annual cost be, ballpark?
Estimating current salaries, we're looking at least $25 million annually.
Thank you.
So don't lower it.
I think I mentioned the Board of Retirement makes that decision, and as I stated before, your board directly appoints 4 members of the Board of Retirement. In addition, the actuaries do present that information to them. They are statutorily obligated to evaluate all of that information fairly. What is the real market expectation? What is the current experience? We get capital market assumptions from our various investment professionals that look into their crystal ball up to 10 years out, and all of that factors into how they make their decision about how to set the assumption rate.
Supervisor Couch?
Thank you, Paul. How hard would it be for you to do this? You mentioned that it used to be, the assumed rate of return used to be 8.25. Do you recall the year that was?
Well, if we were not your actuary then, but most of California systems back around 1990 were in the 8 to 8.25 range.
how much work is it to say, what if we hadn't changed any assumptions whatsoever, including the assumed rate of return? What would our cost be today?
Well, it's not hard to take the current valuation and run it using the old assumptions. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what our cost would be today, because we were making different contributions.
When I
all the
say
way
our
down.
cost, I'm referring to.
The employer cost,
Yes,
yes. Again, the straightforward thing would be to, in our computer program, where it currently says 7.25, we could type in 8.0, and we could go get the old mortality tables and run the valuation on that basis. We are always cautioning the actuarial profession to make sure that our information is not used to mislead the public. So I'd want to be careful on what one would infer from that number.
I'm just curious how all the machinations we go through and the gnashing of teeth over the lowering of the rate of return and all that, when it comes down to it, what is it really doing to our cost that we write the check for?
Very good. What we've attempted to do, now it's only 10 years.
Because we have to make up for it.
Absolutely.
If we don't hit the assuming it's 8 or 8 1/4,
Right.
if we don't hit that, we get a larger bill.
Right. The thing about the graph that's up there right now, this was our attempt to try to answer that question, at least in terms of, what has been the effect of not meeting the actual assumptions or changing the actual assumptions. So this is less of a snapshot of what would things look like if we had stayed with the old assumptions, but is trying to give a little bit of that picture, Supervisor Kaus. But it's not quite the same as if we reran everything using assumptions from the 1990s, what would things look like?
I also want to, I don't know if this is going to come out as a comment or a question, but it was the last time we had the discussion at K-Sara about the lowering of the assumed rate of return. I recall in my, you almost lost me there. I recall that there was a great deal of weight given to your presentation and your opinion. And I know Mr. Brown just sort of described it as, well, the board can decide. They are the ultimate decider of this. I guess the question for you and maybe for council is, let's assume you walk in the door and you've done a spectacular job, which you do, of giving us every reason in the world why we need to go from 7 1/4 to 7. And the board says no. What is the consequence of that possibility?
Again, I can't give legal advice.
I know.
I know that.
Well, that's why I threw her into
Yeah,
the
good.
thing mixed in.
I'll give you two answers. From one jurisdiction to another, there are a variety of legal counsel opinions in terms of how binding the actuary's opinion is. And I know that for us professionally and personally, we think it should be the board's decision. Now, then you get into under our standards of practice, which were recently revised on this very point. If you adopt something other than our recommendation, we will have to opine as to whether we believe that is a reasonable assumption.
And you do that in your annual report, or where do you do that?
That would be in the annual evaluation report. That is, if the evaluation uses assumptions that are not, that we did not develop, then they're not set by us.
Okay.
Then we have to, it used to be we only had to opine if we thought they were not reasonable. You love this. Now we have to make an affirmative statement whether we think they are reasonable. And we would have to look at our study.
And what's the consequence of you stating that in that report?
It's available to the public.
Okay.
Yeah, it is, it's purely a disclosure item. It does not, in fact, once we make that statement, then that means that your report complies with the actuarial standards of practice. But it also means you will have an actuarial report available to the public where it says that we believe that the board's assumption is not reasonable. And I don't know whether it's the right phrase to use, as a headline risk, in effect. But then you would be in compliance with the actuarial standards.
Okay.
I guess now we have to bring the accountants in.
Well, go ahead.
Because that assumption is not only used for determining your contribution rates, it is also used for the financial information and liabilities that the county puts on their balance sheet.
In the CAFR.
In the CAFR, and yeah, in the county's CAFR. Not
Yes.
the system CAFR, the county's
Right,
CAFR.
right.
So, now this we do not know, we haven't done this, but if you ran the accounting numbers using an assumption that the actuary has identified as not being reasonable, the accountants have their own actuaries who come and opine. So the accountants might say that if you use the 7.25, suppose they do their analysis and it looks just the same as ours. They could say that if you use the 7.25, they will qualify your financial statements. And then you could be in this situation saying, well, we don't mind funding on a basis that the actuary is uncomfortable with, but we don't want to have our financial statements with an adverse opinion, whatever they call that now. And then you could end up saying, okay, well then for accounting, we'll use the 7% and we'll only use the 7.25 for funding. That again is those uncharted territory.
Okay.
Yeah.
But those are the two basic areas that, any other consequences?
No, accounting and funding, right,
Okay,
right.
thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Couch. Any other supervisors? I don't see anyone punched in. Okay. Thank you so much for your time and expertise. We're going to move to take some action. at
Move
this
to
time.
receive and file the report.
Thank you, Supervisor Couch.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Supervisor Gleason. We have a motion and a second.
Thank you. The motion is approved. All ayes.
Thank you very much. This does bring us to the end of our morning session. We are going to adjourn to closed session. And I would ask in honor of my colleague Supervisor David Couch that we adjourn today in memory of Adam Vivas, recently killed in Kern County, a preacher's kid like me. Thank you, Supervisor, for bringing that to our attention. And on Supervisor Couch's motion, we will adjourn in his honor. Thank you.